to make sure that we don't lose you. All right.
And I do see that Rachel Lee is on the line. Mr. Gutierrez is on the line. Looks like Danielle Everly is on the line. And there's a Teresa, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that must be Teresa Lauer. Okay, good. The only individual I do not see is Evelyn Beaucamp, who has requested to go first. Evelyn, are you on the line?
I am on the line.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you. And your attorney, you were bringing your attorney Beaucamp?
Yes.
Yes. I'm sorry, I interrupted. I'm on the telephone. I was unable to make a Zoom connection,
Okay.
so I'm by teleconference. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so we did receive your request that you wanted to proceed first, and I shared that request with our chair, Max Disposti, and so he's agreed to take you first before Ms. Lauer.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
And then can I just have the attorney state and spell his name so I can make a note of it?
Robert Moss, M-O-S-S.
All right, and Mr. Moss, what are you appearing by phone?
Yes, I am. I'm appearing by phone because I was unable to connect via Zoom. I had a connection, but it was lost. So I called the number.
Are the last four digits of the phone number you're using 6450?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to keep track of you as well.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Disposti, thank you for giving me a moment to.
You're welcome. No problem.
I
It
will
looks like we have the quorum and it's 8:32, so I move to begin the meeting, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Well,
May I make a quick request before we begin?
please go ahead.
With so many speakers, it would make my job a lot easier if everyone could just state their name before speaking. I would appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
Good morning, everybody.
we're not on the record yet. So Megan, yeah, sorry, Ms. Mendoza, just so you know that they're going to open the board meeting. They're going to do a couple little things and then we'll turn it over to the ALJ and he'll decide when to open the record. So don't worry about recording right now.
Perfect. Thank you.
Quick question is, hey, Christina, was Cesar gonna start our meeting? Was he recording, webcasting?
Bryce is.
Bryce is. Is Bryce on?
Bryce, are you on?
Thanks for checking that, Kim.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Let me check. He's on.
He's on?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Bryce.
Is he good to go?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, let me make sure.
Because I don't see the recording on the Zoom platform.
You won't see it on the Zoom.
Perfect. Okay, then.
Yep, we're
Okay.
rolling.
All right, good
Okay.
deal.
Excuse me. Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Behavioral Sciences Board meeting. My name is Max Disposti. I'm a chair of the Board of the Behavioral Sciences. Today is September 11, 2020, and the time is 8:34 a.m. This meeting is occurring at various locations pursuant to Executive Order N2520, dated on March 12, 2020. So today meetings will be conducted using the following guidelines. All participants will mute their microphone or phone during each petitioner's presentation. At the end of the petitioner presentation, the administrative law judge will ask each board member if they have any questions. Board members will unmute their microphone or phone to ask their question. Upon conclusion of your questions, please mute your microphone. At the conclusion of the board members' questions, the ALG will allow the Deputy Attorney General and the petitioner to make closing remarks. Upon conclusion of the closing remarks, the administrative law judge will conclude the matter. After each petitioner, the board will take about 10 minutes break. An opportunity for public comments for items not on the agenda will also be provided. Please be advised that during this comment period, the board cannot engage in discussions or take action on any matter that is raised, except to decide whether to place the matter on the agenda of a future meeting. We will now establish the quorum. Christina, if you can please call the roll call.
Good morning.
Good
Max
morning.
Disposti,
Here.
Ross Ehrlich,
Here.
Susan Friedman. Here. Christopher Jones,
Here.
John Stovek,
Here.
Wendy Strack,
Here.
Christina Wong.
Here.
For the record, Dr. Leah Brew, Crystal Anthony, Deborah Brown, Jonathan Maddox, and Kelly Ranasinga are absent. We do have a quorum.
Thank you, Christina. For a matter of board introductions, would you mind to call again the roll call for the board so they can introduce themselves?
Sure. I'll
Thank you.
start with you, Max.
Okay. Max Disposti, public member.
Ross,
Ross Ehrlich, also a public member.
Susan,
Susan Friedman, public member.
Chris,
Christopher Jones, LEP representative.
John,
John Stovak, LMFT.
Wendy,
Wendy Strack, public member.
Christina.
Christina.
And those are our board members.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. So we're now moving on the public comments item on the agenda. Steve, do you see anyone that would like to speak? We have 2 minutes max for this,
Okay.
for each individual.
Let me look. Does anybody raise your hand if you can in the Zoom meeting so that I can? It doesn't look like anybody is raising their hand. Maybe one more check. Doesn't appear to be any public comment right now.
I raised my hand. I raised it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay.
Raised my hand and the emoji hand too.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm sorry. State your name and then please go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Susan Martinez, and I emailed about maybe 2 months ago. I really wanted to know this question. I know that the suicide risk assessment requirement that was new for 2020 has been pushed for 2021. So I work with the school district, with the mental health evaluation team. I am LPS designated. I am currently attending Suicide Prevention Network. I trained others on crisis response. I know that there's a requirement for, if you have the experience, to opt out. It just states like there are your supervisor, director can have a letter, but I wanted to know exactly what the letter needs to say. I just wanted to do to do it the right way. And also, do I have to keep, of course, all of my trainings together in case of an audit? That's my question I've been wanting to get answered. I just want to make sure that the letter that my supervisor provides has everything that is needed. And what is that?
Okay. Thank you so much for taking your time and coming here. Perhaps we can have the staff reaching out to you off the meeting session and share with you exactly the directive on this. Kim, you agree?
Susan, would you please send me an email?
Sure. Can I have your email?
You may. It's Kim, Kim, .Madsen, MADSEN, at dca.ca.gov.
Okay, thank you. I will email you after this meeting.
Perfect.
Thank you for being here. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Steve, do you see anyone else?
I am looking right now. Let me make sure the video, I don't see any hands in the video, and I am not seeing any hands raised on the Zoom platform. Let me make sure. Let me go over to the next scroll. I do not see any public comment.
Wonderful. Thank you for doing that. Then at this point, we are moving to the next item on the agenda, which is for my colleagues, board members, if there are any suggestions for future agenda items. I don't see anyone raising any suggestions. So if you confirm, we can actually go on the next agenda item, and I will introduce our administrative law judge, which is Sean Gavin. Mr. Gavin, you can go ahead and take the floor, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. As Mr. Disposti said, my name is Sean Gavin. I'm the administrative law judge from the Office of Administrative Hearings, who has been designated to preside over this matter, or these matters. We're not on the record yet. Let me just make a few brief statements to all of our petitioners, including any counsel who may be present. The hearings will go as follows. Once I call the hearing and we go on the record, I will say some identifying information about the case, such as the case name and case number. I will then invite the parties to make an appearance. The Deputy Attorney General, who is here, Ms. Heim, Patricia Heim, is appearing in a non-adversarial capacity. She will make a statement to the following effect, but her job here is not adversarial. It's to ensure that the board gets adequate information to make their decision. I will then invite the parties and any counsel they brought with them to identify themselves. Each hearing is a separate entity. So each time we have a hearing, I will need for the board members to establish a quorum. So I don't know if that's Ms. Madsen or if there's someone else who will be doing a roll call, but I can do a roll call, or the board members can identify themselves, but we'll figure that out as we get there. But we need to make sure that we establish a quorum for each individual hearing.
Okay.
Once we get to the actual hearing itself, Ms. Heim will first make whatever opening statement she'd like to make. She will then present the petition packet. Each of you should have the petition packet near you, in front of you, handy, so that you can review it, because it may happen that Ms. Heim or board members have questions about specific pages. So they may say, turn to Exhibit 2, page 10, and I want you to be able to do that relatively quickly. After she presents the petition packet, she'll also give a brief orientation to the board so that they understand what exactly is happening to your petition. Once that is done, I'll turn it over to the petitioner. For any petitioners who are represented by counsel, they will proceed through questioning from their attorney. Their attorney will ask them questions. They will answer those questions. Once that's concluded, I'll give Ms. Heim an opportunity to do any cross-examination she'd like to do, so she can ask questions. And then once that's concluded, I'll give the board members an opportunity to ask any questions they might have as well. The board members seem able to electronically raise their hands, and so I will do my best to monitor that when it comes time for board questioning. But if for some reason I miss it because there are 43 participants and I can't keep them all on the same screen at the same time, please feel empowered to just speak up. I'd rather have you interrupt and make sure you get your question heard. Once the parties have concluded their testimony, including cross-examination from the board members and Ms. Heim, the parties will then have a chance to make a brief closing statement. Ms. Heim can make one on behalf of the people, and then the parties can make closing statements. For any parties who are not represented by counsel, when it comes time for you to present your petition, or your testimony, I should say, I'm not going to require you to ask yourself questions that you then answer. Instead, you'll testify in what we call the narrative format, which means you just explain in your own words what you think the board needs to know when making this decision. Please keep in mind, and this goes for the parties who are represented and unrepresented, the board has already had an opportunity to review your petition packet. So there's no need to, for example, read a narrative statement that you've previously submitted. The board has it, they can review it. If you'd like to highlight certain things in it, that's of course acceptable, but we don't need you to sit and read word for word a 3-page statement you've already submitted. Secondly, please keep in mind that the the purpose of today's hearing is not to reestablish original cause to discipline the license. Rather, the focus is the rehabilitation you've undergone since the original license discipline, and the reason that that basis of rehabilitation supports a petition to terminate the probation. As I understand it, each of the petitioners today is here on a petition for early termination of probation. Any questions about any of that before I talk briefly about proceeding in a teleconference, video conference format? All right, I'm hearing silence. If you did have a question but didn't know how to unmute yourself to ask it in time, just let me know at some point. Just a brief word about appearing with a court reporter in a hearing with lots of people on a video conference. Our court reporter is here, and her job today is to transcribe everything everyone says once we're on the record. That is a very difficult thing even in person, and even harder by video conference. So as she requested at the outset, when it's time for you to speak, if it's not obvious that it's you speaking, please introduce yourself and just say who you are. For example, I'll say, this is ALJ Gavin. So just briefly say who you are so she knows who the speaker is. Secondly, we need to speak loudly enough, slowly enough, and one at a time enough that she can make out who is speaking and what was said. Her job becomes very, very difficult if she has to try to transcribe in stereo. Secondly, we need to make sure that we communicate with words as opposed to non-word sounds or gestures. Often in common discussion, people will use phrases like uh-huh or uh-uh, and those things come out on a written transcript as some version of UH-UH. And it's very hard to tell when you're reading that after the fact what the person actually said. The same goes for nods of the head, shrugs of the shoulder, things like that. Even though we're on video and we can see you, I'll need you to answer with a word as opposed to that gesture or non-word sound. Finally, it may happen from time to time that the court reporter didn't quite hear what you said and asks you to repeat something. This is very important. When she asks you to repeat something, she is not asking you to provide additional clarifying testimony. She didn't hear the word or phrase that you used, and she wants you to use that exact same word or phrase, but louder and slower. So if you said, I saw Dr. So-and-so, and she said, I'm sorry, what was that? You wouldn't say, oh, he's my psychiatrist in Roseville. You would simply say the name of that doctor once again. Any questions about any of that? All right, seeing none. It's my understanding that the order of appearances today will be, is it Beauchamp? How do I pronounce the last name?
Right.
Beauchamp.
Beauchamp. Ms. Beauchamp will go first, followed by Lauer, then Gutierrez, then Everly, then Lee. If you are near the end of that sequence, please pay attention to the earlier hearings so that you see exactly how these things go so that we can keep things on track. It looks like Board Member Wong may have a question.
Yes, Your Honor. So I have a suggestion and see if that will work. So
Okay.
for the board members questioning, can we just maybe go by alphabetical order here for us to prepare and know when to ask the questions?
That's fine with me. It would go Mr. Desposti, then Mr. Ehrlich, then Ms. Friedman, then Mr. Jones, Mr. Sovek, Ms. Strack, and Ms. Wong. All right, so we're not on the record yet. If we were, I would note that Ms. Wong suggested an order that lets her go last. My wife warned me that humor doesn't come across on a video call.
Well, that's fine. And you can reverse the order if you want, you know. Mine to go first.
No, that'll be our order. As I recall, when we met in person, Mr. Maddox was on the far left, and at one point said, "Hey, how about we start with Mr. Sovek on the far right next time?" So maybe we'll switch the order at some point, but yeah, the board members should expect to go in that order, and I'll go through in that order and ask whether there are any questions in that order. Any questions? Thank you for that, Board Member Wong. Any questions from the parties or their attorneys about procedure before we begin with the first case? All right, seeing none, let me finally just say, unless someone hasn't, please mute your phone if you have not already done that when it's not your time to talk. It'll cut down on some background noise and make it easier for everyone to hear you. All right. Mr. Moss, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, thank you.
And Ms. Heim, are you ready to proceed?
Yes, thank you.
And Ms. Mendoza, are you ready to proceed?
Your Honor.
All right, then we are on the record in the matter of the petition for early termination of probation of Evelyn Joanne Beauchamp, being heard before the Board of Behavioral Sciences. It is Friday, September 11, 2020 at 8:51 a.m. This is board case number 2002-017-000-808 and OAH case number 2020-080-666. My name is Sean Gavin. I'm the administrative law judge assigned to preside over this matter. Can I take the appearances of the parties who are appearing by video or telephone conference, starting with the Deputy Attorney General?
Good morning, Patricia Heim, appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California pursuant to Government Code Section 11522.
Thank you, Ms. Heim.
Good morning. This is Robert Moss, and I'm appearing this morning for Evelyn Beauchamp.
All right, thank you, Mr. Moss. And the record should reflect that Ms. Beauchamp is also in attendance by telephone. Can I also establish a quorum of the board? Let me just go through a roll call and have the board members respond to let me know that they are present. Mr. Disposti?
I'm here.
Mr. Ehrlich?
Present.
Ms. Friedman?
I'm here.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mr. Sovek?
Present.
Ms. Strack?
Here.
And Ms. Wong?
Here.
All right, the record should reflect that those members constitute a quorum of this board. Before we went on the record, I explained briefly how the hearing would proceed today. So that your record is complete, I will summarize those procedures once again. The hearing will proceed in 3 phases. There will be opening statements, there'll be evidence, and there'll be closing argument. For each of those 3 phases, I will invite Ms. Heim to go first. Ms. Heim will first make a brief statement about the nature of the case and present the petition packet, at which point the petitioner will have an opportunity to present the petitioner's evidence. That can come in the form of witness testimony, including that of the petitioner. It can come in the form of third-party witnesses and can come in the form of additional documents. Once evidence is presented by the petitioner, both Ms. Heim and the board members will have an opportunity to cross-examine the petitioner. When that's concluded, the parties will have a chance to make any closing argument. Ms. Heim on behalf of the people and the petitioner, or her attorney in this case, on behalf of the petitioner. Ms. Heim, any questions about those procedures before we move forward?
No questions.
And Mr. Moss, any questions about those procedures before we move forward?
No, thank you.
All right. Ms. Heim, would you like to move forward with presenting the petition packet?
Thank you, yes. At this time, I will be presenting the petition packet for Miss Evelyn Beauchamp. And at the conclusion of presenting the packet, I will move it to have it received into evidence. Miss Mendoza, if I am speaking too fast at any time, please let me know and I will slow down. Miss Beauchamp's petition packet includes the following: the petition for early termination of probation dated March 1st, 2020, and it includes the following attachments: petitioner's typewritten response to question 11 of the petition, response indicating her conviction dated March 1st, 2012 has been expunged pursuant to Penal Code Section 1203.4. This is followed by petitioner's authorization for the release of confidential records and the following letters of recommendation. A letter dated February 28th, 2020 from Crystal Henderson. The spelling is CHRYSTAL, last name Henderson, HENDERSON. This is followed by a letter dated February 20th, 2020 from Sharon Hawkins Savage, spelled SHARON. Second word, HAWKINS-SAVAGE. This letter is followed by a letter dated February 27th, 2020 from Alvin E. Lewis Jr., spelled ALVIN, middle initial E, PETERSON. She's an LCSW. This is followed by a letter dated March 6th, 2020 from Tyra Torian, LCSW, with her attached resume. The spelling is Tyra T. August 2nd, 2017. Exhibit 1. At
Mr.
this
Moss.
time, excuse me,
Sorry, go ahead, Ms. Hine.
I will wait. I'm sorry.
Okay. Mr. Moss, do you object?
No objection.
All right, Ms. Hine, there were 2 releases with regard to confidential information included in the packet. Is there a protective order included as well for any of the pages?
No, there is not.
Is it your intention to move for a protective order for any of the pages?
No, at this time, I don't believe that any of the included information in the petition is requires a protective order.
Okay. Mr. Moss, same question for you.
No, with respect to the petition, there is no need for a protective order. However, that does raise an issue, but perhaps I'm getting ahead of myself, which is my primary purpose for attending today on behalf of Ms. Beauchamp, and that has to do with the decision itself and some language in the petition in paragraph 9 that Ms. Beauchamp wanted to address to the board in closed session, perhaps, with respect to modifying that decision to make the statement that was made with respect to mitigation in a way that does not reveal some highly sensitive medical information. And I was going to address that in closing, but since you remain to that subject matter.
Okay. I think we'll have to cross that bridge when we get to it. It sounds like there may be an issue that you want to flesh out in more detail, perhaps in closed session. For the time being, we're just dealing with Exhibit 1 and whether the parties object to its admissibility or not. So Exhibit 1 is admitted with no objection. And Mr. Moss, I would invite you, when it comes time for petitioner's case in chief, to revisit the issue you just raised.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Hine, Exhibit 1 is admitted, and you may proceed with your summary of the case.
Thank you. At this time, I will read a summary of the petitioner's disciplinary history. On or about September 13th, 2016, the board received an application for an associate clinical social worker registration from petitioner and was signed on or about September 4th, 2016 as to the truthfulness of all statements, answers, and representations in the application. Said application was denied on April 6th, 2017, citing criminal convictions, dangerous use of alcohol, making false statements, and acts warranting denial of licensure as causes for denial. Specifically, petitioner had a 1991 conviction for misdemeanor possession of marijuana, a 2004 driving under the influence conviction with a blood alcohol content of 0.16%, and a 2012 DUI with hit and run with injury when she was arrested after hitting a pedestrian and driving away without stopping, with a blood alcohol content of 0.18% and 0.17%. The statement of issues asserts petitioner failed to disclose a previously submitted application to the board in her subsequent application when she signed and certified under penalty of perjury that she had never applied for a license, registration, or certificate to practice clinical social work to a board in California when she had previously applied for and been denied a registration as an associate clinical social worker by the board. Petitioner appealed the denial, and after an administrative hearing by way of a proposed decision, was issued registration and placed on probation for 3 years, effective January 22nd, 2018. Regarding her probation, she has no history of tolling, no modifications to the petition. She is in compliance with her psychotherapy discipline and compliance condition. She's in compliance with the condition that she abstain from use of alcohol and submit to drug and alcohol testing. She's in compliance with the reimbursement condition. She is also in compliance with the standard terms and conditions, including submitting quarterly reports. At this time, I will reserve questioning because the burden is on Ms. Beauchamp to show that early termination of her probation is warranted. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hines. All right, Mr. Moss, that takes us to the petitioner's case. How would you like to proceed?
I would just like to ask a few questions of the petitioner.
All right, Ms. Beauchamp, I will have you raise your right hand and let me know when you've done so.
I have done so.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you'll give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, Mr. Moss, when you're ready.
Thank you. Ms. Beauchamp, in paragraph 12 of your petition for early termination dated 3/1/20, you were asked the question, what actions have you taken to rehabilitate yourself pursuant to the criteria set forth in the rules? And you gave your explanation in part, and it, as previously mentioned, that you have attended AA to maintain sobriety on a regular basis, and you're connected to the community, and you have family support. Would you like to elaborate in your own words on paragraph 12 as to what you've done during your period of probation that has been a factor toward your rehabilitation?
Well, as I mentioned, I do attend AA back to basics. I haven't been attending as regularly as I used to, but I do get in a meeting monthly. I was attending church. I moved from Inglewood, where I was attending Faithful Central, and currently I'm at Philadelphia.
Ms. Beauchamp, I'm sorry to interrupt. Ms. Beauchamp, I'm sorry to interrupt. This is ALJ Gavin. I think it may be a connection issue, but I'm missing a little bit of what you're saying, and I think it would if you would slow down just a little bit. If you can pick up where you said, I was attending church.
Oh, I was attending church in Inglewood. I moved from Inglewood for employment in Coalinga. So currently I'm in Hanford, and I attend a church, Philadelphia church in Lemoore. and I volunteer for some activities, or I was when church was being held. I maintain 2 jobs currently, and I'm in a PsyD program. So in regards to what I've done since, it's my life is full of enriching experiences. I'm connected with the church as well as friends and with the AA community, and definitely have a close connection with family.
Thank you, Ms. Beauchamp. In paragraph 13 of the petition, you were asked what you've done to ensure that you are safe to practice as a counselor in independent practice. And you gave an answer in the space provided. Would you care to elaborate further on to the board that would assure them that you're safe to practice as a counselor independently?
Sure. I have a very intimate connection with my clinical supervisor, in which she's well aware of each of the convictions that I've been convicted of. And she definitely checks in with me bi-monthly to see if there are any difficulties that might trigger some desire to drink. I have other social workers that I speak with and check in with periodically, as well as the group supervision. But the relationship that I have established and maintained with the person that Tyra Torian, that's providing the psychotherapy, definitely is of assistance as well. I speak with her weekly.
Thank you. And lastly, I would like to ask you this question. Would you care to share with the board what important life lessons you've learned as a result of this experience that you believe will make you a better person or professional?
Well, I guess most importantly, I've learned that I don't need to tackle and handle things independently, that I have a social network, social capital that I should rely on when difficulties arise. Usually I'm one that always makes myself available to help others, and I think I need to tackle all of my challenges myself. But now I know I should utilize those resources that I have, because everyone needs someone, even when they don't need someone.
I should note, it sounds like someone is unmuted and I hear some background noise. Please mute your line. It looks like it's Mr. Penny, P-E-N-N-E-Y. Please mute your line, sir. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Moss.
Did the court reporter get all that?
Ms. Mendoza, did you miss any of that testimony? You're muted, Ms. Mendoza.
I got the testimony. I was not recording Mr. Penny's, whatever conversation was happening there.
Okay,
Oh,
thank
that's
you.
what I meant. Yeah, I didn't mean that part of it. All right, thank you. And thank you, Ms. Beauchamp. I have nothing further.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Heim, any cross-examination?
Yes, thank you. Ms. Beauchamp, at this time, do you have any other criminal convictions that the board is unaware of?
No.
So do you have any current criminal or civil charges pending against you in this state or any other jurisdiction?
None.
What factors do you believe led to your discipline?
Well, the 3 items that were mentioned mentioned the 91 conviction of the driving under the influence, the 2004 conviction of driving under the influence, and I'm sorry, the 1991 conviction of marijuana, and the 2004 and 2012 conviction of the DUIs, as well as the statement made that I falsified information on the application.
Beauchamp, why do you believe you would not repeat that conduct today? I know you mentioned your support network, but do you have anything else specifically you would like to add?
Other than the support network and my my ties to church, or and as I already mentioned, my social network of friends, especially social workers. In regards to the falsification on the application, I must say that that was not intentional. And in regards to making certain that doesn't happen again, I called before answering questions on the application. I think I've made the statement before that when the application changed in that year, and there was some wording about license, and I didn't think license and registration were synonymous. So I answered that question incorrectly. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you drink alcohol now?
No, I haven't drank alcohol since November the 7th, 2013.
And would that be your sobriety date?
That is my sobriety date.
Thank you. Ms. Beauchamp, you mentioned that you have attended AA sporadically. Have you ever had a sponsor?
I have had a sponsor. My sponsor moved, but I don't currently have a sponsor at this moment, but yes, I have.
And how long did you have that sponsor, do you think?
6 years.
Thank you. Ms. Beauchamp, therapy was a condition of your probation, is that right?
Yes.
Would you intend to continue therapy if you were no longer on probation?
It wouldn't be a formal therapy, but Tyra has extended, Tyra Turian, who is the therapist, has extended check-ins. Currently, I'm supposed to check in weekly. We have our meetings, but if I ever needed to call other than that one time, she's available, and she has extended that invitation beyond the probation.
Thank you. So other than, you mentioned that you have family and that you attend church. Right now it's Philadelphia Church in Lemoore, is that right?
Yes.
Other than that, what coping skills do you plan on using to deal with life stressors going forward?
Well, I journal, and as I mentioned, my social network. That's the most valuable asset, as well as family. I have relied on my previous experiences to be a guide toward future behavior, and I think I'm pretty well equipped going forward, but never too confident.
Thank you. And would you like to talk specifically about why it is that you've asked to have your probation terminated early?
Well, originally I made the request in February, and I made the request in March, and the whole reason for early termination, I only had a year left. The probation expires in February of next year, but I really wanted an opportunity to have a hearing, hence the same reason why I retained an attorney. I wanted to present the case to have private health information removed from the decision from February 21st. So I thought that this was an opportunity to at least have a voice with many people to hear my plea. So that was my ultimate goal for requesting the hearing. Secondarily would be to have the early termination. And I would say that to say the requirements and the conditions of the probation have not been a strain, so that other than monetarily. So the primary goal was to have a hearing so that I could make a special request.
Thank you. This is Dagheim. Ms. Beauchamp, when you received your decision in February of 2018, or the January, were you aware that you only had 30 days to make any objection before the decision became effective?
I was aware, and I did make an objection at that time.
And were you given a response?
The response that I was given was that I didn't, so let me make a correction. I made a request to amend something, and the response that I received was that it was too late to amend.
I see. And so the information that you're speaking of, did you have a hearing, or did you enter into a stipulation?
It was a hearing.
I see. And did you testify to the information in open court?
I did.
And at the time, did you make any requests to have anything held confidential?
No, I didn't. And that was my ignorance, not knowing that anything that was documented would be posted for the public.
Thank you. Judge,
yeah.
Excuse me. If you have anything further, please continue.
No. Thank you.
Thank you. Judge, I have nothing further at this time.
All right, I'm going to turn it over now to board questions. Let me note that I think, and we haven't gotten too into it, but I think I understand the nature of the petitioner's request to modify in some way the original order instituting license discipline, and that is outside the scope of today's hearing. So I would invite board members to ask questions that are within the scope of today's hearing with regard to the petition to terminate probation early. I cannot give legal advice, nor can anyone on the board give legal advice, Mr. Moss. However, I allowed Ms. Heim to ask her questions. I was paying careful attention that she didn't go beyond the scope of just trying to understand the nature of the request. The original hearing that took place in this matter on November 13, 2017, it sounds like included some testimony regarding a medical diagnosis. And that medical diagnosis was then referenced in the decision that the ALJ produced and that the board adopted. And so I understand that you may have a request to modify that, or the accessibility of that decision in some way. But that document as it stands presently is a public record, unless there was some protective order that was in place. I don't know whether there was or not. The same with any record of testimony that was made. Unless there was a protective order in place at the time, that record of testimony would be a public record as well. To the extent that this petition packet includes a copy of that proposed decision, which includes reference to that diagnosis, and to the extent that this petition, including that document, will be a public record. I would invite the parties to make any request for a protective order so that in the event they go and file some motion to protect previous documents, that we haven't compounded the problem by then having an additional document exist in the world in a publicly accessible way. So Mr. Moss, if you'd like to move for a protective order for some portion of this petition packet, I will hear that.
Oh, yes. At this time, yes. We would so move, but it's probably to make the motion at this time.
I'm sorry, I didn't get what you said. Can you repeat that, please?
I said we would want to so move, but do you want me to make the motion right now at this time?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yes, we would, on behalf of Ms. Beauchamp, we would ask for a protective order with respect to the paragraph 9 of the decision and order, specifically with respect to the medical diagnosis referenced in paragraph 9. We would ask that part be not accessible to the public.
Ms. Heim, do you object to that request?
No objection.
All right, I will prepare and sign a protective order that protects its petition packet AGO033. Mr. Moss.
Yes, I'm sorry about the ringing. I can't stop that ringing in the background. It'll stop on its own soon.
All right, well, let's just pause a moment for that. All right, Mr. Moss, the protective orders that we issue are designed to be as narrow in scope as possible. And so the protective order will be for that single page, which in this petition packet is AGO033. It was page 3 of the original proposed decision. As I said, neither I nor anyone else today can give legal advice. However, I will note that today's protective order will do nothing retroactively for the proposed decision that was issued in 2017 and adopted by the board in February of 2018. With all of that said, let me now turn to the board to see whether the board has any questions. Let me start alphabetically with Mr. Disposti.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Beauchamp, can you hear me?
I can.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much, first of all, to be here. I know it's not easy in this new format and over the phone. In addition, I'm sure it's a little bit of a struggle for all of us, but I assure you that we're here to make sure that you have your voice heard and that we can also ask you some questions in relation to your petition. Is that okay?
That is fine. And we both, myself and the attorney Moss, we attempted to get on the Zoom HTTPS and were unable to, have some difficulty. Otherwise, we would be visible.
No, I understand. You know, it's not a legal requirement to be visible. So I appreciate you sharing that. This is not going to affect your, you know, your presentation. So I just appreciate you making your time to come here. So one thing I would like to first say, I see that you came a long way. Congratulations also for being almost at the end of this probation. If I'm correct, to be due in February 2021. Am I right?
You are correct.
So you're very close. And one thing that, if you can speak to it, I notice also you have a lot of letter of reference. It looks like you're really, there's a lot of support system around you, which is really good to see. Can you speak a little bit more about the work you do and your interactions with the people that you serve in the context of the work you do, obviously, not in general, just in the license that you carry, if you don't mind.
So are you asking that I speak about my position currently?
Yeah, pretty much more about your professional life in regards to the people that you're serving and the use of your license and so forth. Yes.
Sure. So I work as a medical social worker at one hospital. That's a per diem position, and that would be 1 to 2 weekends a month. But my full-time position is at Coalinga State Hospital, in which I am a clinical social worker, and I work with sexual violent predators. I facilitate groups, sometimes individual therapy. Most interactions with the patients are to mitigate crisis. There's a lot of, multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary meetings with psychologists, psychiatrists, rehab therapists, and we meet with patients monthly to review their progress in treatment.
Wonderful. Sounds like a job with a lot of responsibilities. Thank you so much for what you do. Sorry, go ahead.
I was saying, thank you. It is surprisingly rewarding. So I enjoy what I do, and I believe that I'm pretty effective as a social worker there.
I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are. And this is definitely a job, a line of work that requires a lot of emotional focus. And in regards to that, you mentioned your church, which is really important to you. Do you have any other support system when times gets really hard and you know those stories coming at you and the level of responsibility that's placed on yourself because of your your quality as a social worker? Do you have other support system around you that they are there to sustain your efforts and perhaps when times are a little bit more difficult, which we all experience at one time or another?
Well, in regards to any difficulty with work, as I mentioned, the interdisciplinary team, we meet twice daily without the patient to check in with each other and to make sure that that we're not having any difficulties with patients that have kind of sat with us that we haven't discussed, because it shouldn't be revealed to the patient. So we try to make certain that that we speak about it and get things off our chest in that setting. In regards to, and in fact, that would be the best support that I would have, because they also work in the environment and they know the challenges that can arise with this population.
Right, it makes sense. No, absolutely. Thank you for answering this. Actually, Your Honor, I don't have any further questions. And good champs, thank you so much for making your time. And this will be it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, and I appreciate it.
Mr. Ehrlich, any questions?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Beauchamp.
Good morning.
If I may start off, I have a few questions, and I think when I was reading, it struck me a little bit. I mean, typically when we receive petitions from petitioners, there's a lot of detail and clarification regarding the questions that are asked in the questions 11, 12, and 13 regarding the causes underlying discipline and things of that nature. I found your responses to be a little bit bare bones. So I'm going to see if I can maybe ask a little bit and have you maybe expand on some of those questions, if you don't mind.
I don't mind. Put some meat and potatoes on the plate. Sure.
Okay, absolutely. So in regards to question 11, which was basically summarizing in your own words the nature of the acts that were causing the disciplinary action. I know that you kind of just listed the convictions that you had suffered, and I was wondering if you can maybe explain some of the causes underlying those convictions, what might have been going on in your life at that time, what gave rise to maybe the conduct and things like that.
Sure. So with the 1991 the conviction of possession of a marijuana cigarette, I traveled to Albuquerque, New Mexico with some guys who said that they were going to visit some family. And so I went with them. I couldn't stay with their family. They left me in a motel room and they gave me a marijuana cigarette. And at that time, I didn't. Oh, so it was sitting underneath a plastic cup. One of the guys was arrested and he brought an officer to the motel where I was staying. And the officer asked, could he enter the motel? And I let him enter, and he checked the room and found the marijuana cigarette. In the 2004, I was living in Las Vegas, and wasn't coping well with life circumstances, and so I was drinking quite frequently. I was still working, but usually when the weekends hit, I would binge drink. And at that time, when I was arrested, I was driving home from a bar, and I turned into a shopping center because I went the wrong way. So I turned into the shopping center and I exited the driveway of the shopping center without pausing. And a police officer saw that, and I was arrested. With the 2012 incident, I had left work and was dieting that time. And the only thing I consumed was yogurt that day. So I went to a club, and there was supposed to be live entertainment, and the tables were full with, I shouldn't say they were full. When I left work, it was 5-something, 6 o'clock, and on each table there was one person sitting. And they said, oh, the whole table's reserved. So I go to the next person, the same thing. So finally I got to a table where there was one person sitting, and he says, I'm expecting a group, but you can sit in the interim. When a couple of the friends came, he said, you know what, you're by yourself, go ahead and stay. So I bought around the shop for everyone. And then in appreciation, the guys were really, the people, it was female and male, they were really happy, and they praised me. And so I bought another round. And the other friends came, and they were celebrating me for being so kind. And so they brought alcohol. And most of the time, if I buy alcohol for someone, they're just the recipient. They're not buying as well. So they purchased alcohol, and I drank it, and then I left, obviously browned out, and drove home intoxicated. And I didn't know that I hit someone. I knew that there was a bump, but I drove, and I didn't deviate from my route home, and was pulled over, and the officer said, you know, did you hit someone? And I said, no. And obviously I must have looked in such disbelief that he asked that I get out of my car and walk around to the side of the car so that I could see. And I was surprised because, as I mentioned, I didn't know. Well, yes, I didn't know. And part of my fender, a portion of it was missing. And so, yeah, that pretty much summarizes. I will say with that most recent incident, I realized afterwards that I was feeling such rejection from going to 5 or 6 tables with each person saying, no, you can't sit. I'm reserving all of these seats. And I felt so relieved to receive some acceptance or some inviting invitation to stay that I definitely got carried away and overconsumed alcohol and drove home irresponsibly.
Okay. So when did you start going to AA?
I actually started going because I had to go after the 2004 incident. So I began going, but I wasn't very consistent, but I would go.
When did you start going more consistently?
in 2013.
Was that as a result of the court proceedings or the conviction in 2012?
I would say that was a great deal part of it.
Is it fair to say that maybe the main underlying reason why you started attending AA or any other sort of rehabilitation was due to maybe a court proceeding or convictions or any orders for probation?
I would say initially that was a motivating factor. Absolutely.
And then how regularly? You said about 2013 was when you started going more regularly. About how regular did you go? What frequency and for how long?
So I would say with 2012, I was going it because there was a mandated program. But I'm sorry, could you ask your question again?
You said you started going more regularly around 2013. So I was wondering at that point, what frequency were you going? How regular was it? How many days a week? And for how long did you do that for?
So I would say that I was going regularly in 2012, but it was mostly because of the mandate. In 2013, it wasn't mandated that I attend so regularly, but I maintained visits weekly.
And you said that you've been going to about one meeting per month now, is that correct?
On the average, yes.
And about how long have you been going at the rate of one per month?
Since I've moved, so 2013. How long have I been here? I'm sorry. This is 2020, so 2016.
Okay. And do you and do you only go to AA as a sort of tool for rehabilitation from alcohol consumption?
Yes, and to stay connected to that community.
Okay. You'd mentioned that one of the reasons that you were drinking was that you weren't coping well with some of your life circumstances at the time. I'm wondering what's changed since then. How do you now, how are you able to cope with stressors in your life or other circumstances in your life without using alcohol, and how can you ensure, to the public and public safety that something like these other convictions wouldn't happen again?
Okay. Thank you for that question. At that time, I was living with a boyfriend. So I would say that I was coping with life circumstances or medical issues prior to that. And I mean, we would need to close the hearing so I could explain effectively, but the best way that I can with this being an open hearing is that there were new things that were going on at that time. And I was living with a boyfriend and had difficulty communicating the new issues with him.
Okay.
This is ALJ Gavin interrupting. Mr. Ehrlich, I don't want to limit your questions, of course. It sounds like the petitioner feels she would need to move into a closed session to answer more thoroughly. So I'll leave it up to you as to whether you would like a more thorough answer or not.
I think I'm satisfied with the answer, and I don't believe I have any more questions. So thank you, Ms. Beauchamp.
You're welcome. I mean, I just would add that things were new in 2004, and they were brand new in 2004. So it totally, I've lived and adjusted since then.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ehrlich. Ms. Friedman, that takes us to you. Do you have any questions for the petitioner?
Yes, I have one question. Good morning, Ms. Beauchamp. I'm really happy that you could be here this morning and join us. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
I'm just wondering, you said that you wanted to have this day because there's something in your application that you want to make sure is prohibited being in the public record. And that's the main reason that you made this application. Is there any other reason that you really desire early termination of your probation? Your probation will be over in February, a couple more months. Do you really care that much about that?
As I mentioned, the only concern would be the monetary commitment. Lifestyle has remained the same, so the conditions of the probation hasn't been a challenge for me. So yes, you're correct with hearing that was the ultimate motivation. It wasn't for early termination.
And let me make sure I understand you correctly. The only reason you really care now is because of the costs for therapy, et cetera.
That's the only hardship, that the cost for the therapy and the cost for random drug testing. So yeah, the therapy has not been a challenge for me. I enjoy it. It's the cost of the therapy and the cost of the drug testing, and so my lifestyle won't change, and it hasn't changed. So that I don't know if I'm making it very much sense, but the requirements of the conditions of the probation haven't been a challenge other than monetarily.
Okay, I understand. So basically, monetarily is your strongest emphasis right now for wanting to end your probation.
Yes.
And would you likely continue with some of the therapy?
Yes, I would. And I'm glad to have an open invitation from the therapist. It's comforting and supporting to know that that she will be available when I need.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate your being here. That's all.
Sure, and thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Friedman. That takes us to Mr. Jones.
Good morning. Just have one question, kind of piggybacking off of what Susan asked. Will you continue with AA if you are off probation?
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just might add that I've established and maintained some very rewarding relationships, and so I wouldn't want to abandon that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jones. Mr. Sobek.
Yes, good morning. Before we begin, I just want to confirm with you the pronouns you would like me to address you with.
You can just call me Evelyn.
Okay, Evelyn. I do want to pursue a little bit more information on the history of your commitment with AA. So in 2012, what I'm hearing is you did start AA, but as part of more of a mandated situation. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And then November 7th, 2013, you committed to it on a more personal level. Would that be correct?
I actually committed on a more personal level before then, because when you start with the court mandate, it's more stringent, and so you have to go more frequently, and then they loosen up the reins, and so maybe you're going weekly, and then you're going bi-monthly. So around mid 2013, I was going more regular than was required.
Okay. So in 2013-ish, and maybe for those earlier years in program, how often were you attending?
So I was attending weekly, so I didn't have to go weekly.
So once a week?
Yes.
Okay. And then you've talked quite a bit about how the community is very supportive to you. And yet, at the same time, since you've moved up north, that you have actually lessened your connection to that community. Could you explain to me a little bit about that?
Yeah. Yes. I have a full schedule at work, and then I work a part-time job as well, and with attending volunteer activities. I wasn't making as much time for AA. However, I was still maintaining a connection with Sharon, as well as a couple of other people with the with my AA group. Most of my attendance was in Los Angeles, where I established a connection with AA. So since I've moved, I don't frequent very many AA churches down here or meetings. I would mostly go where I'm familiar, which is in Los Angeles, and that would be on the weekend. So I have 2 weekends that are free on most occasions, and so sometimes I just wouldn't leave the house. So my frequency in attending would be mostly because I'm resting.
Okay. And I'm trying to figure something out, and this has to do really with, what we're looking at today. Since you've moved into your new community, I think you identified 2016. Is that correct?
Yes.
So in the last 4 years, you have not created or established a sobriety community in your new Northern California home.
Not one that I'm so connected with. My part-time or per diem job was at Martin Luther King Community Hospital. So I would go to Los Angeles once or twice monthly. So the meetings that I would frequent would be in Los Angeles.
Okay. No further questions. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Sovek. Ms. Strack.
The questions I had have been asked and answered. So Ms. Beauchamp, thank you for being here and for being open and honest with us. We appreciate it.
I appreciate your kindness. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Strack. And Ms. Wong.
Hi, Christina Wong, Lcsw member. So thank you so much, for coming to the board, to really, share your rehabilitation efforts and some of your background. And I also want to just say that I share your concern about, your protective, your medical information being released to the public. So I just want to acknowledge that, that's just how difficult it is for you. So I do have some questions. The first thing is that I just want to follow up on the board members' question about the AA meeting. So the AA meeting, according to, the proposed decision, that it's really not part of your, the BBS terms and condition. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So your attendance to the AA meeting really is voluntary.
It is, absolutely.
Very good, thank you. Now, so I want to focus a little bit on your, kind of your report, on your psychotherapy. Now, let me just make it very clear first. I really don't need to know the details. What happened before. It really is about your insights and, kind of your takeaway, from the therapy. And so in the letter, your therapist, and she did make a statement saying that, she's very impressed with your growth. So I want you to really elaborate that and help me understand who you were before and who the person now you are, since we don't see your face. So I just really want to see that, what particular growth and, that you have gained.
Thank you. I'm assuming that she is speaking about connections that I'm making as to why I feel a certain way, or that's a good question. I can only assume that she has made an observation as to my knowing myself more, or making a connection, as I mentioned, between thoughts and actions, or I should say thoughts and behavior. So, yeah, I don't know exactly what she was speaking of specifically. I could say my interactions with people, I'm able to make a better sense of my feelings as a result of what people say or how people behave or treat me, and not as impulsive in behavior.
Okay.
So I hope that answered your question somewhat.
Yes, definitely. And so now, since you're talking about, how, the interaction, the nature of people's interaction and how that affects you, also your reaction to them. And so I think you brought up a very good point, because, from the board's point of view, and that's exactly the key, why it is so important for the registrants and the licensees to be healthy, especially in our profession, because we deal with human beings that interact with us every day. So in that sense, what change have you made, to make sure that, that's, I'm going to capture that in one word, called a countertransference, which means that, it's really about, how we, our therapists, our own feeling and thoughts, how, we easily, can project it back to, how do you make sure that, that you deal with the transference, which is the client's behavior to you, the behavior and the thoughts and emotions to you, and then your countertransference is being addressed. Especially deal with. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say that I think that I believe I've gotten better with recognizing that, especially when I have feelings that are stronger than normal. I'll usually ask myself, why are you feeling this way? And try to make some sense out of why my feelings have peaked or strengthened as a result of an interaction or lack of an interaction with someone. And I'm pretty open with speaking to someone about how I'm feeling, to kind of flush it out, because often I'm unable to tap into exactly the reason. But after verbalizing my concern with someone, then usually a light bulb goes off. So usually it's helpful to speak to someone about it. And it's not so much any suggestion or advice that I'm getting from the person I'm speaking to. It's just the action of speaking about it that pretty much assists in that process of realization.
Mm-hmm. Right. So that is a really important mechanism that you talked about, having somebody to bounce it back. And I do believe that this is a very, good beginning, for you to, really keep yourself, your countertransference keep in check. And so I do, and I do encourage you, that continue to really, work on, yourself, because it seems like, there are definitely, issues still, need to work on, about the need to be accepted and, the need to please, that kind of, belong to, your own growth. So thank you very much. And I have no further question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Wong. Let me ask, do any other board members have additional questions after we've gone through that first round? All right, seeing none. Ms. Heim, any follow-up questions?
No, no questions.
Mr. Moss, any follow-up questions on redirect?
No, thank you.
All right, Mr. Moss, do you have any other witnesses to call or documents to introduce?
No, we don't.
All right. Before we move to closing argument, Ms. Mendoza, we've been going about an hour and a half. Do you feel you need a break?
I can keep going.
Okay. We'll take a break after this petition, but we'll finish closing arguments first. Ms. Heim, do you have any closing remarks to make?
No, nothing.
And Mr. Moss, any closing remarks to make?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. I think my client has presented herself very well. I think you don't see her face, you don't see mine also as well, but from her voice, her credibility comes through in my view strongly. She comes through as an insightful and responsible person, and honest and credible. Of course, actions speak louder than words, and she has done more than was required of her on probation, as was pointed out through attending the AA on a regular basis, to help her grow as a person and to gain insight into her feelings and interactions with people, all of which will serve her well in her chosen profession. I think she comes across as a very stable and healthy person, mentally healthy person at this time, and in part due to the unfortunate circumstances in which she's found herself leading up to the disciplinary action with respect to her license and during and throughout probation. I think she's earned an early termination so that she could be relieved of the financial hardship that was discussed. And she doesn't need probation to motivate her to continue on this positive path that she's on right now in her life. And I think she's shown the board that she will be a credit to her profession. She will, and that the public will be protected. And thank you for your consideration.
All right, thank you, Mr. Moss. Ms. Heim, anything else before I close the record?
No, nothing further. Thank you.
Is the matter submitted, Ms. Heim?
Yes, submitted.
And Mr. Moss, is the matter submitted?
Yes, submitted, but again, I would ask that the board can consider the issue with respect to redacting the word, the specific medical diagnosis in paragraph 9 in closed session, perhaps in discussion, and submit. With that said, submit. Thank you.
All right, then the matter is submitted, the case is closed, and we are off the record for this petition.
Your Honor, thank you so much. I think at this point, since we went a little bit longer with the time, if we can take 14 minutes break and get back to 10:15 a.m., that would be great.
All right, see you at 10:15. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you. Proceeding. So welcome, everybody. Welcome back to, this is the Board of Behavioral Sciences. Today is September 11, and the time is 10:17 a.m. Your Honor, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, our administrative law judge will take on from now, establish the quorum and proceed with the next petitioner.
Very briefly, Ms. Mendoza, I did not get from you, I should have asked your CSR, and then also I will need your estimated time of completion for the previous petition with an estimated number of pages.
Okay, for the end time, I have 10:02 and an estimate of 39 pages. And my, sorry, my CSR number is 14344.
All right, thank you. All right, and then I should also say that when we were in recess, Ms. Beauchamp stayed on the line and had questions about how to connect on Zoom. So I walked her through that. We did not discuss the subject of her hearing or the facts in any way, but should disclose that. And then finally, before we move to the next hearing, do I have Ms. Lauer here?
Yes, I'm here. My camera's been turned off and I can't turn it on myself. I guess a co-host turned it off. Oh, now it says I can start it. Okay, there we are. Hi, yes, I'm here.
Okay, okay, good morning.
Morning.
We're not on the record and you're sat through the previous petition hearing and hopefully has sat through the instructions I gave at the outset. I will give those same instructions on the record so that your record is complete as well. But wanted to take this chance to see if you have any questions about the procedures before we go on the record.
Thank you. No, I don't have any questions.
Okay. And then a final note, Mr. Sovek brought up the issue of pronouns, and I suppose maybe I should have done it myself. I'll be using titles, Mr. and Miss, and I may also use pronouns at any point. When doing that, I acknowledge that I'm making assumptions. And so if my assumptions are wrong, I would invite anyone to tell me that I'm wrong and correct. I don't want to misgender anyone or use the wrong pronoun. So this goes for you, Ms. Lauer, but anyone who's listening, please feel free and empowered to speak up if I or anyone else has used the wrong pronoun or the wrong type. All right, Ms. Heim, are you ready to begin with the next petition?
Yes, I am.
And Ms. Lauer, you're ready to begin?
I am ready. Thank you.
All right, then we are on the record in the matter of the petition for early termination of probation of Teresa Jean Lauer, being heard before the Board of Behavioral Sciences. My name is Sean Gavin. I'm the administrative law judge assigned to preside over this matter. It is Friday, September 11 at 11:20 a.m. This is board matter number 2002-015-001-888, and it is OAH case number 2020-080-667. Can I take the appearances of the parties, starting with counsel?
Good morning, Patricia Heim, appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California pursuant to Government Code Section 11522.
Thank you, Ms. Heim. And Ms. Lauer, you are attending by video conference, correct?
That's right.
And you are attending without the assistance of an attorney today, correct?
Yes, that's right.
All right. You watched the previous petition hearing and also heard the explanations I gave prior to that. But so that your record is complete, let me just say the hearing will proceed in 3 parts. First, Ms. Heim will have an opportunity to make an opening remark and present the petition packet to you and to the board to orient the board as to what the hearing is about. After that, we'll turn to you to present your evidence. You can testify, you can call third-party witnesses, you can present additional documentation. And then finally, once you've done that and both Ms. Heim and the board members have had an opportunity to cross-examine you, we'll then move to closing argument, where the parties can make a brief summary of what they think the evidence showed and what outcome should happen as a result. Any questions about any of that procedure?
No, thank you.
All right, let me go through and establish a quorum of the board. Mr. Disposti?
I'm here.
Mr. Ehrlich?
All right, here.
Ms. Friedman?
Here.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mr. Sobek?
Here.
Ms. Strack?
Here.
And Ms. Wong?
Here.
All right, it's been established that these members of the board constitute a quorum. Ms. Heim, anything to take up before we move forward with your presentation of the petition packet?
No, nothing.
Ms. Lauer, any questions or concerns before we move forward with the hearing?
No, thank you.
All right, Ms. Heim, when you're ready.
Thank you. We are here today to discuss the petition for early termination of probation filed by Teresa Jean Lauer. And at this time, I will identify what is contained in the petition packet and request that it be entered into evidence as Exhibit 1. The packet contains the following: a copy of notation of the total paid probation costs as of April 1st, 2020 by Ms. Lauer, her petition for early termination of probation, which is dated April 1st, 2020, and it has the following attachments: petitioner's typewritten responses to questions 11, 12, and 13 of the petition, petitioner's authorization for release of confidential records dated April 1st, 2020. And I would note for the record that there are no confidential records that have been disclosed, but the authorization is included in her packet. She also includes letters of recommendation, including a letter dated April 1st, 2020 from Antoinette Perec, LMFT. The spelling of her name is first name ANTOINETTE, last name PAREKH. This is followed by a letter dated April 1st, 2020 from Barbara Oberg, first name BARBARA, last name OBERG, followed by a letter dated April 2nd, 2020 from Mary Rodriguez, first name spelled MARI, last name RODRIGUEZ. This is followed by a letter dated April 1st, 2020 from Ms. Lauer's son, John, first name spelled JOSS, last name LAUER. This is followed by a letter dated April 2nd, 2020 from Allison Hare, LMFT, first name spelled ALISON, last name HARRE. This is followed by a letter dated April 2nd, 2020 from Maureen Savage, project manager of the University of California. Her first name is spelled MAUREEN, last name SAVAGE. This is followed by a letter dated November 26th, 2018 from Karina Gordhammer Saltzman, LCSW, first name KERENA, middle name GORDHAMER, last name SALTZMAN. This packet is followed by the December 1st, 2016 decision and order after the adoption of petitioner's stipulated settlement and disciplinary order, which revoked petitioner's licensed marriage and family therapist, license number 47862. Following the revocation of petitioner's license, the license was immediately revoked The revocation stayed and petitioner was placed on 4 years probation with terms and conditions. The accusation number 200-2015-001-888 dated May 23rd, 2016 was attached to the disciplinary order. Petitioner's unsuccessful petition for early termination of probation dated April 11th, 2019 is also attached. In this petition was denied and the probation term and condition number 6, abstain from the use of alcohol, submit to drug and alcohol testing, was modified to require a maximum of only 1 test per month. This is followed by the notice of hearing to petitioner dated August 18th, 2020. And finally included is the license history certification for the petitioner for licensed marriage and family therapist, license number LMFT 47862. At this time, I would offer this packet into evidence as Exhibit 1.
Ms. Lauer, do you object?
Sorry, I have to unmute myself. No, I don't object.
Exhibit 1 is admitted without objection.
Thank you. At this time, I would read a summary of the petitioner's discipline history with the board and her probation compliance. The disciplinary history is as follows. Petitioner was issued licensed marriage and family therapist, license number LMFT 47862 on or about November 23rd, 2009. Said license was in full force and effect at all times relevant to the charges brought against her. On or about May 13th, 2015, petitioner collided with another vehicle while driving and drove away from the scene. Shortly thereafter, she was pulled over and arrested for driving under the influence of alcohol with a blood alcohol content of 0.17%. Petitioner was convicted of a DUI with a blood alcohol content of over 0.08% on July 23rd, 2015. In addition, she failed to report the conviction to the board within 30 days. An accusation was filed on May 23rd, 2016, and the board adopted the stipulated settlement and disciplinary order, which immediately revoked, stayed, and placed petitioner on probation for 4 years with optional and standard terms and conditions, effective December 1st, 2016. Petitioner's probation is scheduled to successfully conclude on November 30th, 2020. Petitioner has not told her probation. This is her second attempt at early termination. Her first termination was denied, but it was modified to include the biological fluid testing frequency, reduced to 1 random test per month. Regarding the term in her probation of the psychological evaluation, petitioner completed this on March 22nd, 2017. She was deemed fit to practice independently with safety to the public, with 1 additional recommendation, that being supervised practice for an additional 28 months. She has satisfied this condition. The psychologist interviewed petitioner in person on February 23rd, 2017 for a duration of 5 hours and 30 minutes. Tests were administered, including the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory, 2nd edition, the Milton Clinical Multi-Axial Inventory, 3rd edition, the Mental Status Exam, Substance Abuse Subtle Screening Inventory, Sentence Completion, and the Kinetic House Tree Person was also hand scored. Petitioner is in compliance with the condition of psychotherapy attendance. She completed her prevention program on February 23rd, 2018. She completed the education requirements on May 18th, 2018. She's in compliance with the condition to abstain from controlled substances and alcohol and submit to drug and alcohol testing. She's in compliance with the probation reimbursement. She paid her cost recovery in full, and she's in complete compliance with standard terms and conditions, including quarterly reports. Because the burden is on Ms. Lauer to show that the early termination of her probation is warranted, I will now reserve the right to question her after her statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Heim. Ms. Lauer, that takes us to you. If you would like to testify on your own behalf, I'll have you raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you'll give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right. As I said before we went on the record, I will not require you to testify by asking yourself questions. Instead, you can just testify in the narrative format and explain in your own words what you think the board should know when making this decision. Please keep in mind the board has had the opportunity to review your petition packet and is particularly interested in any measures of rehabilitation since your license discipline. But with that, you may proceed when you're ready.
Thank you. I think it's important for me to say this is a public hearing, and I don't usually reveal that I am a member of AA. So for all the public who are watching this, I am revealing my anonymity because it has to be done for this hearing, but I am not a representative of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'll just share about my own personal experience. Thank you, board members, for being here. I know you're not paid and this is volunteer time, and I really appreciate it. And I appreciate the opportunity to come before you. As Patricia Heim said, I did come before the board on December 1st, 2018, and first petitioned, and that petition was denied. And I thought I could petition again a year later, but then I found out I couldn't petition until April 11th because that's when the judgment was given. So I did petition April 11th and was told that I probably wouldn't get in before my probation was up the end of November. And then I was given an email August 10th that there was an opening. So just so you know, that's why I'm here. I know my probation is ending very, very shortly. And I believe and have believed that I have not needed to be on probation to be safe with the public from the very beginning. So I'm just going to give you some dates I wrote down that I actually got my DUI in May of 2013. So the way that happened is that I got sober in AA December 27th, 1988. And I maintained continuous sobriety with a sponsor and going to meetings and sponsoring women for 23 years. And in 2005, I was diagnosed with cancer and underwent cancer treatment and became very, very sick. And I was denied Social Security 3 times in a row. After jumping through all the hoops, I was denied. And so when I got that third denial, I had lost my house and my car, and I'd lost everything, basically, my health being the least of it. And I got that letter and I thought to myself, if my life is this bad with 23 years sober, I'm going to drink. And I thought to myself, if it doesn't work out, I'll just go back to AA. And unfortunately, even as a therapist and with so many years of sobriety and attending meetings, I didn't understand the nature of alcoholism. So it didn't work out that way. I had what I call now 2.5 years of some controlled drinking and some sobriety. I think I had 9 months sobriety in there. Anyway, at the very end, I couldn't quit drinking and I got a DUI, and I would wake up in the morning and say, I'm not going to drink today. And by 3 o'clock, I would think I'm not an alcoholic. I don't know why I said that. And so I became personally familiar with the denial and the compulsion to use that is true for most alcoholics, or probably all alcoholics. And it was terrifying and I was traumatized. And fortunately, after my DUI, I went back to AA, I got a sponsor. So I have maintained sobriety since September 4th, 2015. So by the time I had disciplinary action from the board, you guys, I had already maintained sobriety for 15 months. I had worked through all the steps in AA. I was a part of a relapse prevention group. I had completed everything. So, and then, as you can see from my record, I have complied, I think, perfectly with every request. And I have to say, as much as the probation has not been fun for me, you can see how much it cost me back in April. It's been very, very difficult. It has supported my sobriety, and that's the most important thing. If I lose that, I lose everything, and I know that. So today I go to meetings every day. I have a sponsor I work with. Am I talking too fast, Judge?
I'll leave that to Ms. Mendoza to answer.
Everybody's frozen. My internet's unstable. I'm going to keep. Oh, sorry. Can you say that again?
Could you slow down just a little bit, please?
Yeah, I'll slow down a little bit. Yeah, instruction. So let's see. Since September 4th, 2015, I have worked with Mary Rodriguez, as you can see in my petition packet. She and I maintain close contact, and I continue working the steps in a step group with her, and go to meetings every day, sometimes twice a day. Luckily, Zoom, that's one of the benefits of Zoom, is that I can now go to AA meetings at 7 a.m. in my bedroom instead of having to drive somewhere. So treating my alcoholism is and has been since September 4th, 2015, my #1 priority. And so that, aside from my work as a therapist, I know that I put the public in danger when I relapsed and when I drove drunk. And so all of my amends, I call them amends, all the money I've spent, all the hassle over the last almost 4 years are amends that I'm making to the public. And it feels good actually to have the opportunity to do that, and I appreciate it. And I don't feel that I am in danger or endangering anybody, and that I need to be on probation. I think that's it. I'll answer your questions.
All right, Ms. Heim, any questions for the petitioner?
Thank you. Yes. Ms. Lauer, so it sounds like you really have covered this, but I want to just be a little more specific. Could you just sort of summarize what you feel like you've learned during your probationary period that will assist you in not repeating the conduct? It sounds like it was very specifically related to something, but I'd like to hear you talk about that.
I think what I learned long before the probationary period is that I have to make treating my alcoholism a #1 priority every day. And if I don't do that, then I do behaviors like drinking and driving and endangering other people and harming other people, and it's not okay. So that's my #1 priority every day.
Thank you. And we obviously, as a society, have had some pretty major life stressors of late. Can you speak to that, about what kind of support structure you have in place to assist you when you encounter difficult life stressors going forward?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I think you guys see a letter there from my therapist. That therapist, I think I started with January 1st, 2017, maybe. I was in therapy before then, but you guys denied the therapist I was seeing, and I had to get a new therapist, and I was not happy about that, but I have to say that she has been a fabulous support for me. So my therapist, my sponsor, I also attend Al-Anon meetings, and I have a sponsor in Al-Anon, and I work the steps in that program. I have a women's writing group that I have continued to be a part of and sort of run, I guess, indirectly. And then I just have fabulous, my son is a great support to me. I have great support in my life through my AA meetings and the people that I connect with there.
Ms. Lauer, this is ALJ Gavin. I apologize to interrupt. At least on my end, your feed was interrupted momentarily, and I believe we may have missed some testimony after you discussed your writing group. And between that and when you talked about your son, I missed what you had said. And I believe maybe our court reporter did as well. Can you please repeat that?
Yeah, thank you. I apologize. My internet's unstable. If that keeps happening, I'll just call in. Let's see, writing group and my son, I don't know what I said. I have a lot of support. I'm not exactly sure what I said. I'm very sorry.
Thank you. Ms. Lauer, so therapy was a condition of your probation, but if your probation is terminated, would you intend to continue with therapy?
Yeah, I just spoke with my therapist about this yesterday. So if my probation is terminated before November 30th, 2020, she and I will cut back to twice a month. So I'll see her twice a month instead of 4 times a month.
Thank you. And I know you've spoken a lot about your sobriety and how important that is to you, but I have to ask you, would you intend to drink alcohol if you were off probation?
No, never.
Thank you. Thank you. And do you have any kind of self-care plan other than everything that you've already discussed?
I have a Buddhist practice, so I have a teacher and a Buddhist class that I go to every week, and I meditate daily, and I have a regular writing practice, and I do 10 minutes of yoga every morning, and I just a lot of self-care.
Thank you. And what actually is your job at the moment?
So I am independent. I was working with Karina Saltzman for several years, and because of my probation, actually, I lost that position, and which was quite scary, but it's worked out great because now I'm in independent practice, and I'm disabled, so I can only see a few people a week. So that's my job. I have a few clients individually that I see.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
All right, thank you, Ms. Heim. Mr. Disposti, any questions for the petitioner?
Hi there, just a little observation. Hi there, Ms. Laura.
Hi.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you too, thank you.
I know times, maybe not for you, but it seems like it went really fast when you were here with that. So thank you, and I can see all the excitement around the fact that, oh my gosh, you're 60 days away from the end of this probation. So just for the record, there is nothing, doesn't matter what the board decides today. I mean, that's the end date of the probation. We're not here to rehash or open any of the case, of course, but it's good to see you because we understand how many times our petitioners, they feel they need to have a platform, a space to recognize the efforts that they made, and also for public record to have the knowledge of the board in that regard. So I can see that, and you spoke volume about your work as well. I remember last time that we talked to you. Anything in regard, just a little question perhaps, since the probation has been really difficult, we can see that in so many ways affects people, but also I was happy to see how much the measure that we put in place really create a place where you could actually rely on. So once this is over, because it's about to be, how you mentioned that you love some of the things in place. What are the things that you really are that you didn't before that now you appreciate more in relation to what the probation has done for you in I don't know if it's AA meetings or anything else? What is something that you would like to continue to practice in regards to your recovery and where you are?
Yeah, so I think it's just, I will continue to go to AA meetings. I will continue to have my sponsor. I will continue to work the steps. I'll continue to do my Buddhist practice. I will continue to do therapy. All this stuff started actually before probation. So that's why your question is a little confusing to me.
Wow.
Ms. Lauer, this is ALJ Gavin. That's a little too fast.
Oh, it's too fast. Okay, slow down. Yeah. So, I have made the best of my probation. That's what I'm going to tell you. That's the honest truth. I've made the best of it. And before my probation started, I was already doing all of the things. So what I guess I can say that having to log in daily for 4 years and not knowing if I would be drug tested, if I was ever going to slip and drink, not that I don't think I would because I'm in contact with AA and a sponsor and working the steps, but if I was, then all that money I spent, all the time and energy I put into getting this license would have gone. So perhaps logging in daily has been supportive to me maintaining sobriety.
That's interesting. Well, and thank you. Thank you for going detail about that. And I really appreciate, I remember actually in your case that you had practiced that prior to the probation, but hey, life changes, right? And sometimes the probation does things to people. And I was just curious to see what your reflection was. So I don't have any further questions. Congratulations. And I'll leave it to my peers, to my board.
Thank you so much, Max.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Disposti. Mr. Ehrlich, any questions?
I have no questions, but I wanted to thank you, Ms. Lauer, for coming in and sharing with us today, and congratulate you on all the hard work and efforts that you've made.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Ehrlich. Ms. Friedman, any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I also want to thank you so much for coming in here. You've done an amazing job, and I hope that you're healthy now. Are you totally healthy now?
No, unfortunately, I still struggle with a lot of health concerns, but thank you for your concern. I appreciate it.
Well, I hope you stay healthy through this pandemic.
Thank you so much.
Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Friedman. Mr. Jones, any questions?
No questions.
Thank you. Mr. Sovek?
No questions. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, Ms. Strack?
I don't have any questions. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And Ms. Wong?
Yes, I always have questions. So
That's okay. I like your questions and I like talking with you.
oh, thank you very much, Ms. Lauer. So, so I was there, last time when you came and appeared to the board, and so I want to thank you for coming in again. And so, so I actually, I'm still pretty curious, because you're pretty much, you're 2.5 months shy away from, from being, complete your probation. Why couldn't you wait until, you just get it done and save the time and save the energy and save the chance to, expose your personal information to the public?
No, I appreciate that. It's a good question. If I had had to rent a car and drive to Sacramento and stay in a motel again, I wouldn't have done it. But because I just turn on my computer and I sit in my living room, it's worth, maybe I'll save $100 in probation costs. I might save $165 is what I pay for supervision. And I'll probably save $75 a session for maybe 3 or 4 sessions. I don't know, 2 or 3 therapy sessions. So for me, it was worth it to come before the board to save some money. And also the testing, the testing I have to log in every day, that's not easy. And it's about $120 every time I have to test. So it's money, that's all it is.
Okay. So yes, and, I remember, last time, you gave us permission, to actually publish that, information about how expensive it is. And I can tell you, that is definitely very helpful, to educate the public, about, that's the cost, behind an action.
Yeah.
And so I want to thank you for that. And so, so it has been, about 1.5 years. And so, since your last, appeared to the board. And so I want to just kind of follow up with Max's question about the change. I'm not hearing a lot about that apart from just the continuous to be in compliance. So that's one piece. Now, the other piece is that I think the board's decision, really asks you, to have, to gain some insight-oriented therapy, right? So can you speak a little bit more about that?
Between December 1st, 2018 and today, is that what you're asking?
So I think your decision was issued back in April 2000.
April 2019.
Yes.
Okay.
And so, so maybe, so that would be about 1.5 years now, right? Mm-hmm. And so, I just want to really hear about like the change, and the insight, that you have gotten, between now and then.
Yeah. I can tell you that I am happier and more stable than I have ever been. So I have some health concerns, but at this point in my life, I have adjusted to my health challenges. And, having mandated weekly therapy and with a therapist that was new to me. I think I told you guys before, she's a Buddhist priest. And so she's a very good match for me. And so I think continuing to work with her every week and develop a relationship and get support, I am finally really stable and financially secure. I mean, there's so many things that have happened for me between April and now. Is that helpful? Maybe not.
Yeah, I'm not still hearing, I'm glad that your life, the outcome of your life has become more stable and you're happier. And yet, I think the most important thing is about your mentality. Rehabilitation is all about the mentality. It's not just about what you do. It's really about the change, the internal change that you have. So that's what I'm looking for. It's like, what is the different Ms. Lauer that I saw in April 2019 compared to now? What are change? Not just about what you do.
Yeah. No, I get it. You saw me December 2018. So April is when the decision was given, but December is when I went before you. What I can tell you, so what can I say? What's the change that has created this stability for me? I think for sure daily meetings and continuing to work the steps in AA, I find very helpful. And regular Al-Anon meetings and an Al-Anon sponsor in addition to my therapist. So all of those things, that's like a continual inner work. But I think probably maybe what you're getting at is I have a humility that I've never had before. So because I first got sober when I was 20 and I had never tried to quit drinking, I just realized I was an alcoholic and I went to AA, and then I maintained sobriety for 23 years. So I think maybe I was a bit full of myself and thought I've got this handled. I'm a therapist. I've been sober 23 years. And then cancer and losing everything financially and losing my health at quite a young age, under 40, just flattened me. So I think the change that's happened in the last 5 years of sobriety and subsequent to sitting before you guys in December 2018 is a humility that I ask for help constantly. And I participate in Alcoholics Anonymous to get help for myself, as opposed to I go there because I'm a therapist, I sponsor women, I help people. Now I'm very clear that that's support that I need. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that is a very important thing, because I don't recall that, maybe, the humility aspect of it, I'm not sure you actually addressed it in in our last hearing. So I'm glad that, now you find it, to be very important. So, so maybe, capture a little bit more about, the therapy, and so you did have a new therapist.
I started with a new therapist. So I had a therapist who, she also ran my early sobriety group. So, women in early sobriety, she was also my individual therapist, and she was very, very helpful. And then I got a new therapist January 1st. I'm sorry, I lost the question in all of that.
No, I'm talking about, I'm trying to clarify that whether you have a new therapist.
No, I've been working with the same therapist since December 1st, I think January 1st, 2017.
Okay, so it's the same therapist.
Same therapist.
You have been working on. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So, maybe talk a little bit more about, so what is your, relationship, with alcohol now? I know that you try very hard, not to, go back there, maintain the sobriety. And so what is, so what is your relationship with alcohol now?
I am absolutely terrified to relapse again, petrified. And so every day I approach that by what can I do today to not relapse?
Right.
That's my relationship. I hope I never, ever drink again. And I will try everything to make sure that I don't.
Good. So what was your relationship with alcohol before?
I was sober for 23 years.
Yes.
Yeah. So
about the dates. I really know it's really how you look at alcohol itself. What alcohol did for you.
Oh, I see. I get it. Yeah. So I identified as an alcoholic for 23 years and made a decision. I will not drink and I will never drink. I really thought I would never drink. And then I went through cancer treatment and I was on a ton of medications, which now I can look back and say, oh, that was the beginning of my relapse, actually, is that I hadn't taken mind-altering substance in my entire adult life. And then through cancer treatment, I was put on some opiates and some benzodiazepines and different things that I think that's where my relapse started, because I had taken, so when I relapsed, I thought
Miss Lauer,
I
I'm
would
sorry.
have.
Miss Lauer, I'm sorry to interrupt. This is ALJ Gavin. I don't know if it happened only for me, but your connection got a little spotty. Can you pick it up where you said you hadn't taken opiates in your entire adult life, and then you were prescribed them, and that's when your relapse began?
Yeah, thank you. I got the notice that my internet was unstable. I'm sorry. Thank you for interrupting. So yeah, my whole adult life from 20 to 43, no mind-altering substances. And then because of cancer treatment and the subsequent illnesses, I was put on opiates and benzodiazepines. And my doctors knew I was a recovering alcoholic. And I think, again, it was the lack of humility. Oh, I can take that. I'll be okay. Plus, I was desperate. I was very, very sick. So I did withdrawal off of those substances, which was very difficult, but I did do that before I relapsed. But I think then my relapse, when I took that first drink, it was controlled for probably 6 months. And I thought, oh, see, I'm not really an alcoholic. And then I was using it to cope with being sick. That's what was happening. I was using it to cope. And what I realized is that the price tag for me as an alcoholic that comes with using alcohol to cope creates a lot more problems for me. So using alcohol to cope with anxiety, pain, whatever it is I'm going through, is not an option for me.
Thank you very much. I know it's hard for you to talk about these things, but I think also, important that, we know that, that your relationship, with alcohol has changed, and you have find other ways, to deal with your emotions.
Yes. Thank you for the question.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you very much. I have no further question, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Wong. Any other board members have any follow-up questions? All right, seeing none. Ms. Time, any follow-up questions?
No, thank you. I do not. But I would like to note for the record that the Deputy Attorney General at Ms. Lauer's last appearance before the board, and in assessing her danger to the public, I would say that it is clear that she has made definite strides in the interim since the last board meeting. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Heim, you mentioned in your presentation that there was a psychological evaluation. I just want to verify that that's not in the petition packet. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
Okay. Ms. Lauer, my job today is not to question you. However, I can't include something in a decision if it's not in evidence. So did you undertake a psychological evaluation?
Yes, I did.
Okay. When?
I think February of 2017.
And did you hear Ms. Heim's summary of the results of that?
Yes, I did.
Okay. In your view, was that summary accurate?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Your Honor.
All right.
Your Honor, I have just one clarification information. So Ms. Lauer's last hearing with the board was March 1st, 2019.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Any other board members have additional questions? All right. Seeing none. And Ms. Heim, no further questions?
No further questions.
All right. Ms. Lauer, that takes us then to the balance of your case. Do you have additional witnesses to call or additional documents to submit?
No, I do not.
Okay. If that's the case, then we'll move to closing argument. Ms. Heim, closing argument to make?
I do not. Thank you. I would submit at this time.
All right. And Ms. Lauer, would you like to make any closing argument?
No, you're freezing on my screen. No, I don't. Thank you.
Okay. In a moment, I'm going to ask then whether the matter is submitted. And by that, I mean, are you satisfied that you've had a full opportunity to present all evidence and make all argument on your behalf? Ms. Heim, is the matter submitted?
Submitted.
And Ms. Lauer, is the matter submitted?
Yes, and I just want to say that Christina Wong is right. I petitioned on December 1st, but I went before the board in March. So thank you for that.
All right. Then with nothing further, then the matter is submitted, the case is closed, and we are off the record.
Thank you, Your Honor. It's 11:02. I suggest a quick break until 11:10, and when we will resume the work.
Ms. Mendoza, is that an adequate break for you?
Be okay.
Okay.
We can go to 11:15. I understand. I apologize. I didn't consider that. We can.
That'll be better.
We can regather 11:15. Not a problem. Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor, for that suggestion.
Yep. All right, we're on break then. Ms. Lauer, you are free to go. You're free to stay. Your time is yours. If you do stay, please make sure your microphone is muted.
Thank you so much. Thank you all.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so everyone is in.
Waiting for Chris and Susan. I see John coming on now. There's Susan.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah, we're waiting for Chris and Sabina. There's Chris.
I'm here. I was on my other computer. Sorry. Yeah, doing work.
It's okay.
Multitasker, you.
Using all the minutes.
Exactly. Let's see. Sabina, you there? Oh. Yes, she is.
Wonderful. Okay then.
Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, we're good. And I think Sabina's on.
Yeah.
There she is. Yep. Dad, court report. Yep, we're good to go.
We're good to go. Thank you. Thank you, Kim. Okay, welcome everyone. For those of you that are joining us now, this is the Board of Behavioral Sciences. Today is Friday, September 11. We're reconvened at 11:16. My name is Max Disposti, EMS pronouns. I'm the chair of the Board of Behavioral Sciences. Our administrative law judge, Sean Gavin, will take over for now and proceed with the next petitioner.
Do we have Mr. Gutierrez?
Yes, hi, I'm here. The video's not working though, so I don't, it says the host has stopped it, so.
I'm sorry, I'll take care of that right now.
Okay.
There you are.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Mr. Gutierrez.
Hello.
We're not on the record yet. In your case, you sat through 2 petition hearings now, and hopefully the instructions ahead of time. So I'll summarize them on the record so your record is complete. But do you have any questions about the procedure before we begin?
No, I do not.
Okay. Ms. Heim, are you ready to go on the record? You nodded yes. You're now giving the international 1 moment sign.
Sorry, I was having computer issues. I am ready. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And then Ms. Mendoza, have you had an adequate break?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Don't let me forget to get the info on the last one, the estimated time and pages. I'll need that. In my rush to get you off to your break, I didn't get it. So when we conclude this one, I'll get it for this one and for the last one, if that's all right with you.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. All right, then let me pull up my info. All right, we are on the record in the matter of the petition for early termination of probation of Isaac A. Gutierrez. This is being heard before the Board of Behavioral Sciences. My name is Sean Gavin. I'm the administrative law judge assigned to preside over this matter. It is Friday, September 11 at 11:18 a.m. This is board case number 2002-016-000-863 and OAH case number 2020-080-670. Can I take the appearances of the parties who are present, starting with counsel?
Thank you. Patricia Heim, appearing on behalf of the people of the state of California pursuant to Government Code Section 11522.
Thank you, Ms. Heim. So you are appearing by video conference without the assistance of counsel, is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Before we move forward, let me establish a quorum of the board. Do we have Mr. Disposti?
Yes, I am. I'm here.
Mr. Ehrlich?
Present.
Ms. Friedman?
Here.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mr. Sovek?
Here.
Ms. Strack?
Here.
And Ms. Wong?
Here.
All right, we've established that these members constitute a quorum of this board. Mr. Gutierrez, before we went on the record and in prior petitions, I've explained the process that will follow today, but let me summarize that for you so your record is complete here. When we begin, Ms. Heim will begin by presenting the petition packet and providing a brief overview of your petition to orient the board. Next, we will then turn to you to present your case. You may testify on your own behalf. You may call third-party witnesses. You can present additional documents. Once you've testified, I'll give Ms. Heim and the board members an opportunity to cross-examine you, at which point, when that is concluded, we'll then move to closing argument. Ms. Heim will have a chance to make a closing argument on behalf of the people, and you can make a closing argument on your own behalf. If you make a closing argument, it will be a brief summary of what the evidence was and a suggestion of what the outcome should be. When it comes time for you to testify, I will not require you to testify in question and answer format. Rather, you can testify in narrative format, which means you'll just explain in your own words why you think the board should grant your petition. Any questions about any of that before I turn it over to Ms. Heim?
No, pretty straightforward. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Heim, would you like to move forward with the presentation of the board packet?
Yes, thank you.
All right.
We are here today to discuss the petition for early termination of probation of Isaac Gutierrez. And I would like to identify and mark for identification the following, which will be identified as Exhibit 1. The first information includes the petition for early termination of probation dated March 20th, 2020, and the attachments include the following. Petitioner's typewritten responses to questions 10, 11, 12, and 13. Letters of recommendation, including a letter dated April 24th, 2020 from Ernest Chu, LMFT, first name spelled E-R-N-E-S-T, last name C-H-U. Mr. Chu's resume is also included with the letter. This is followed by a letter dated March 27th, 2020 from David Hairston, first name D-A-V-I-D, last name H-A-I-R-S-T-O-N. He is the Drug and Alcohol Program Director for Life in Focus and is also, it looks like, Mr. Gutierrez's sponsor. There's a letter dated March 30th, 2020 from Sue Nelson. His first name S-U-E, last name N-E-L-S-O-N. She is an ED and the Division Director for the Santa Clara County Behavioral Health Services, Substance Abuse Treatment Services for Children, Family, and Community Services Division. This is followed by the Stipulated Settlement and Disciplinary Order, which was effective August 17th, 2017, which ordered that petitioner's Associate Clinical Social Worker Registration Number, ASW 35026, was revoked, stayed, and placed on 5 years probation with terms and conditions. Accusation number 200-2016-000-863, dated December 2nd, 2016, is attached. This document is followed by the notification of hearing to the petitioner dated August 17th, 2020, and the certification of license history. This is followed Nope, that's it. I'm sorry, excuse me. The certification, I believe, actually, I'm sorry, it looks like the notification of hearing to petitioner was actually dated February 2nd, 2020. Yes, pardon me. And the registration history for Mr. Gutierrez's associate social worker registration includes the associate clinical social worker registration number ASW 20242 and his licensed clinical social worker license number Lcsw 88948. This is in full force and effect and will expire on May 31st, 2021 unless renewed. I would like to offer this packet into evidence as Exhibit 1.
Mr. Gutierrez, do you object?
No, no objection.
Exhibit A is admitted without objection.
Thank you. At this time, I will read a brief summary of petitioner's disciplinary history with the board and his probation. Petitioner was issued an associate clinical social worker registration. I'm actually looking at my, sorry, I'm looking at my, oh no, that's right. It's the same number. I was making sure that my numbers for his registrations were correct. And Mr. Gutierrez, if for some reason they are wrong, please let me know.
Okay.
His associate clinical social worker registration number ASW 35026 was issued on November 20th, 2012. This registration was in full force and effect until reaching the 6-year limit. Respondent was issued a subsequent registration for associate clinical social worker registration number ASW 86962 on November 30th, 2018, which canceled on May 10th, 2019, when respondent was issued licensed clinical social worker license number Lcsw 86962, which will expire on May 31st, 2021, unless renewed. On December 2nd, 2016, an accusation was filed against petitioner's registration for a January 7th, 2016 conviction for violating Vehicle Code Section 23152, Subdivision B, driving with a blood alcohol content of 0.08% or more, a misdemeanor, and he admitted to an enhancement within the meaning of Vehicle Code Section 23578 that during the commission of the offense, his blood alcohol level was 0.15% or more by weight. According to court documents, his blood alcohol level was 0.24 at the time of the incident. Respondent was granted 36 months summary probation, was ordered to serve 20 days in county jail, ordered to not drive without a valid driver's license and valid insurance, to enroll in and complete a 9-month first offender program, and ordered to pay $2,130 in fines and fees. The circumstances that led to the conviction are that on November 6th, 2015, Sunnyvale Police Department was dispatched to the scene of an injury collision. Upon arriving on the scene, an officer observed 2 vehicles which had been involved in a rear-end collision. When officers made contact with respondent, now petitioner, he initially denied that he had been drinking, but eventually admitted to an officer that he consumed 3 or 4 alcoholic drinks. According to the officer, respondent displayed objective signs of being under the influence. An officer administered the field sobriety test to respondent, which respondent failed to perform, as explained and demonstrated. Respondent's preliminary alcohol screening were 0.212% at 1915 hours and 0.194% at 19/2100 hours. He was arrested for driving under the influence of alcoholic beverages with what was listed as a blood alcohol content of 0.24% at the time of the incident. The board adopted his stipulated settlement and disciplinary order effective August 1st, 2017, and respondent, now petitioner, was placed on probation for 5 years. Petitioner has no history of tolling his probationary period, no history of modification of the probation, and he is requesting at this time early termination. He has completed the psychological evaluation term and condition, and he completed that evaluation on January 4th, 2018. This report is not included in the petition packet. He is fully compliant with the condition of attending a dependency support program. He completed the education requirements on June 9th, 2018. He's fully compliant with the condition to abstain from controlled substances and alcohol and submit to random drug testing. He paid his cost recovery in full on July 22nd, 2019. And he is fully compliant with the standard terms and conditions of his probation, including submitting quarterly reports and paying his probation reimbursement costs. At this time, because the burden is on Mr. Gutierrez to show that early termination of his probation is warranted, I will reserve the right to question him after his statement. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Heim. Mr. Gutierrez, this takes us then to your case. If you'd like to testify on your own behalf, I'll have you raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you'll give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right. So you can explain in your own words why you would like the board to grant this petition.
Great. First of all, I just want to start off by saying thank you, everyone here, for allowing me to have this platform to advocate for early termination. I just want to say that this program, although it's been tough, it's been very humbling, and also a blessing in disguise. It really has. I've a transformation, and I would like to go over that with you right now. So. And this is simply just so you can see my transformation throughout. So my journey starts about 3 months prior to my DUI in 2015. During the span of 3 months, I failed the Lcsw test 10 times. And that's why, I think that's why Mrs. Helm was having a hard time with all the numbers, because there's a lot of numbers in there. Separated from my wife. Dealt with a stressful client caseload, as we all do as social workers or therapists. And my grandmother, who excuse me. I was very close to passed. So in these months, I didn't care about myself, or did I bother to reach out? I thought I could handle everything on my own. And I think that's the first step to going wrong, despite me as a counselor therapist teaching all my clients, I did the opposite. I began binge drinking, feeling hopeless. And it was really one of the lowest points of my life. But I think I had a decision, right? And I think the decision was to give up or to fight. So the week after I was arrested, without any obligation to anybody but myself, I enrolled in the Kaiser CDRP program. And after the completion of that program, I also took advantage of the employee EAP program, which offered me a lot of insight. I decided to discontinue drinking, and I slowly started building my healthy network of friends. I also completed the DUI program in 9 months. And it was, again, it was very humbling, but it was worth every moment. Then you know what, and I found out in my recovery in itself, honesty is key, right? So one thing that was very important to the board, and this also speaks to why I feel like I'm going to be safe in public, is because I'm very honest. And my journey, 1 year after my DUI, I relapsed, and it was a terrible feeling, but I feel like it was a necessary moment in my journey, right? Because I could see that, you know, it required more. I needed more tools, more social networking than I had. So then now moving forward to August 2017, when I started the BBS monitoring program, I came in contact with my therapist, now Mr. Chu, helped me work through the grief and loss of my grandmother. He helped me after 2 years of being separated with my wife to finally work things out. And that was another huge obstacle that it involved communication, it involved humility, it involved honesty, and overall just persistence and determination to work on the marriage. So I came back home July 2018, and it was wonderful. And that's when everything started coming into perspective again. That if I had these resources, that I can actually improve. I decided that I would need additional support. So I reached out in AA meetings to a sponsor, David Harrelson, and he's been a great support for me ever since. I don't know what I would do without him. On 2019, May of 2019, I finally passed my test after 10 times, and I kind of chuckle about it right now, but it was a mountain. It was a feat that, you know, I had to accomplish, and I felt so proud. So I did that, and so just by caring about myself and my needs, I was able to accomplish things that I never thought I would. A failing marriage, my Lcsw test, and just recently, as of January 2020, I took on a lead position within the county. So I was a lead clinician, and now as of June 2020, I advanced to be a program manager. So just within those times, I was able to really just improve who I was and what I want to become. It's for me, I feel like it's a small miracle just to be able to make those changes. I am three years and 7 months sober. This represents dedication and understanding, improving my weakness so I can practice safely in the community. I've made major transformations, completed all necessary programs without violation or criminal charges. I've been committed to surrendering myself to a higher power, and I've fixed what caused me to be a danger in the community. I also have checks and balances now, which I just feel, I don't know how I dealt with things before. Well, I do know I didn't deal with them. But now I actually have a plan to really check myself, to know myself. And a lot of it is mindfulness, getting to know my body, know how I'm feeling. And I have that specific time in the morning where I do that for 10 minutes. It's more like a me meditation time, and it has helped me tremendously. I'm committed to AA. I'm committed to meeting my sponsor, and weekly services at church, and also serving in the community with my church. I just believe that all these challenges have made me stronger. Also clinically, I feel like I'm a better counselor, father, husband, and community leader. And I have addressed a lot of my blind spots. And I learned from the past, and I'm happy mentally. And I basically just seek happiness. And happiness is, there's no need for alcohol now because I have so many tools in place. Family, community, church. There's a lot of things that I hold dear to me. So I just have a whole new community of support through AA, through my sponsor, through a lot of other areas, such as exercise, eating right. You'd be amazed by those little things, how much they help. And I just feel that I'm more able to deal with challenges now because of the past. It's been tough, and some of these challenges may not seem very hard for others, but for me they were very taxing. And I've never had a criminal history before. I feel like it was a perfect storm, and now I dealt with it, but I feel like I'm a better man for it. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gutierrez, for that. Ms. Heim, any cross-examination?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Gutierrez, you were talking about back in, after your arrest, where you reached out to the Kaiser program and the EAP program and building your friend network. I know you spoke about AA and the sponsor, but can you tell me what your current support network includes?
Right now, my current support network is my family. My family is very important. Obviously, AA, my sponsor. I have a lot of friends through AA also, so that's a huge one for me. A lot of church friends also that we connect. I mean, we used to connect before, now over Zoom, just connecting with sports. Not only that, but just going to the gym and creating friendships there. So a lot of healthy connections in the community.
Thank you. And you said you're reconciled with your wife?
Yes.
And so that state is current?
Yes. So I'm sorry, I left my wife right out. She's a big support too. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And so you talked about the length of time, but what is your sobriety date? What would you consider your sobriety date to be?
So my sobriety date is February 17th, 2017. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just wanted to make sure it was right.
And then have you continued with David the entire time as your sponsor?
Yes.
And do you intend to see him, continue with him as your sponsor, even if you're not on probation?
I do. I specifically came up with a plan to post probation. It doesn't matter. This plan is just who I am now. So it doesn't matter post BBS monitoring. But I have a plan of what I'm going to do moving forward, because I just feel like myself, I just feel like I need to be that structured to have it. But he's part of the plan also for me to meet with him monthly, actually.
Thank you. And then I believe therapy was a condition of your probation, and you talked about Mr. Chu. Will you continue to meet with him after?
Yes, I will. Let me just read. Let me just read to you my plan, so you have a better idea.
Thank you,
Mr. Gutierrez.
Yes.
Mr. Gutierrez, I would you can read from something, but keep in mind that when people read, they tend to speed up. So please make sure that you keep your volume and pace at a level that the court reporter can hear you.
Perfect. Okay. I'll do that. So for if I'm able to be dismissed from probation, my plan for 6 months is to attend AA 2 times a week, 1 time a week therapy with current therapist. I will, and just to kind of supplement the structure that the monitoring program has done, I will have my sponsor review my AA sheets just to make sure I'm in the right path. And I'll meet with them once a month. So this is so this is for 6 months, and then there will be a reevaluation after the 6 months. And I have a whole process of how I would do it. This is all came up with this with my therapist, and it's been very, very helpful. So that, just so you get a better idea of what it is.
Thank you. Thank you. So you talked about not having a criminal history. So do you have any criminal convictions outstanding at this point?
No, no.
And if you encounter stressful situations, which I think we all are constantly at this point, how are you in your mind? How is your mindset about approaching that? It sounds like there were several things that led to your sort of period of the perfect storm before, and you've covered a lot of that in your plan, but like, how have you thought about potential stressors and how that might affect you in the future?
Yeah, good question. I think, so this is what's happening with me. I really believe in mindfulness. So I also have a plan for that. This is just good for myself and what I do and how I'm happier. So I have daily monitoring things, like I said, for 10 minutes, and I can, it's weird. So when I wake up in the morning, I feel like if I overate, right, my body tells me if I'm overstressed, if I haven't slept enough. I think those are the principal things that I kind of look for. If I'm overstressed, I can tell my mood has changed. I'm a little bit more irritated with my wife. Sometimes I'll check in with her just so that I know that, that I'm kind of balanced. And I think that's the way I want to live my life. My wife, she really lets me know, good or bad, she'll let me know if I'm off track. And so that's another way that I kind of monitor myself so that I'm not kind of drifting too far. So, but especially, you're right though, especially right now, I think it's been a big challenge. All the fires with COVID, not leaving the house. And it's been pretty good in the house. We've learned how to have fun together, do different things, and maintain my sanity at the same time. So it's been a good process. It's been a good learning experience during this time too, to see if things change for the worse, but they haven't been able to still maintain the same routines that I've had previously. Keep me safe and the community.
Thank you. Thank you. What are you doing right now? How are you working right now?
Oh, I'm working remotely.
And what is your position?
So my position now is I'm a program manager now, okay. But previously I was a youth drug and alcohol therapist.
Thank you. And then, so are you planning on continuing with the same job if you're removed from probation?
Yes. I love what I do.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
At this time, I have nothing further.
Thank you, Ms. Heim. Let's turn it over then to the board members for questioning. Mr. Disposti.
Hi there. Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Gutierrez, thank you so much for being here as well today.
Thank you.
I also wanted to acknowledge your vulnerability in sharing your story. I know it's not easy in front of strangers and
in front of the whole public.
I know, but I don't have to tell you that crying is actually a good form of healing for anyone, right? So
another form of coping.
Definitely. A little bit, can you tell us a little bit more about, you spoke a lot about the mechanism you put in place, and it seems like you're feeling strongly that you're in a different place, and I'm definitely not arguing with that, but can you tell us a little bit about what happened in your relationship with the work you do and the people that you serve? Sometimes we like to see exactly how that has transformed your relationship with your clients in relation to the work you do, because you, rightfully so, you talk about your journey in relation to your personal relationship and so forth, but how has transfer into the work you do with others? So for instance, what kind of the clients that you're serving, I don't know if they have characteristics of substance abuse or not, or whatever your work you do. Can you speak a little bit more to that? That would be really helpful. And thank you.
And I think that's important, right? Also to maintain safety to the community, because you want to make sure there's no counter transference issues. And, you know, it just in general, I understand. I think for me, just going through my journey, obviously I have a lot more empathy, right? In long ways, empathy, but at the same time, individualized treatment means so much more to me. You can't cookie cut clients, right? And so, you know, I mean, you know, so the board gave me 5 years, right, for this, but you don't really know if that's sufficient or what other resources they need unless you're really there with them, talking with them, and trying to realize what's going on with them. So I guess my point is that just understanding them and their specific needs, their environment, their community, you know, I think you can come up with the individualized plan. And I think just by me seeing, hey, you know, I'm kind of cookie cut in a lot of these areas, right? And, you know, I admit I had issues with alcohol. It was a terrible time. But at the same time, you know, what specifically did I need? It's like, I need this plan for me, you know, the plan that I shared to feel rehabilitated. I really do. That's just me. So I feel like with clients in themselves, they need specific care. And I think a lot of times as clinicians, we, you know, hey, next, you know, it's kind of like a, you know, it's the same thing over and over again, but I try to really focus on what they need and how to meet their needs.
I appreciate that. And, you know, what I hear is that pretty much this experience has humbled you and created a connection, perhaps. And so I see that you're asking for early termination. If there is, because this experience it's been very helpful for you, according to what you're sharing. So what are those terms are mostly challenging for you in regards? Sometimes people say, I could really do without, I don't know, the custom testing, because we know it's an expense. So if there were things that could facilitate this process, let's say early term, so I'm not proposing any alternative. I'm just, what would be your, that really would facilitate your process of recovery and time a little bit, make this process a little bit lighter or, you know, less difficult in relations to the deadlines and everything else. So what is the elements of probation that have been more difficult for you that you really would like to get away with?
I mean, I see they all serve a purpose. I'm not saying they don't. I love therapy. I don't even think I would. That's just been my how I've healed. I think is through therapy. AA has been a huge help. The testing, I just feel for myself, if I am using alcohol, it will manifest itself in other ways, right? Especially if the rate that I was drinking at that time, if I'm drinking that way, it would manifest itself. So I feel like the support I'm getting, the support that I really has helped me is through therapy and AA. But the testing has been really difficult, only because of just being mindful of you know, checking in. I know that sounds minor, but just checking in daily, it's tough. And then finding a time, we had video conferencing at one time for testing, and some of the time, so I'd wake up at 9 and I would only have an appointment at you know, 9:30. And so if I didn't test, if I didn't check earlier, I would have missed a test, and it would have just hurt me as far as the probation status goes. So testing I think would be the number one thing for me.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. And by any means, also, we never undermine those challenges, including the financial ones, because we understand that people have lives. It's not, you know, it's part of the concerns that we often have as well. So I just want to share that with you. I don't have any further questions. Thank you again for sharing with us today. So I'll pass it over to our to the rest of the team. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Chairman Disposti. How about Mr. Ehrlich? Any questions?
Just a couple. Thank you, Your Honor. Hello, Mr. Gutierrez. How are you doing?
Hey, hello.
You doing all right?
Thank you. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, cool. So I just wanted to say I'm very impressed with what you've done since the incident, the things you've done on your own. Impressed with the plan that you've come up with, the 6-month plan. I think that's showing that you're proactive about your care. I just had a couple questions, and I wanted to know. So it seems that one of the main reasons that you're seeking to get off probation early, would it be mainly the testing requirement, or is there something else, some other?
I mean, so to be honest, I think it's just my profession now. Now that I'm program manager, I know this is out in the public. I'm, not supervising because I can't do that, but just being an example to other clinicians. I think it's difficult to have something on your license, and I'm not saying they're going to check, but it's there. It just doesn't. I think that's part of it too, right? And is people seeing, what's happened, and you're now program manager. How are you the example? If you can't maintain yourself, how are you helping, this department? So I think that's huge for me. Cost, obviously. I mean, I don't want to beat that, because I know that's an issue with everybody. Otherwise, the program, like I said, it's been great. I don't want to advocate for more time, but I also wanted to say it's been a good program for me.
Okay, no, I understand.
It's been tough, but good.
And you completed probation in the criminal court?
I sure did. Yes.
Okay. Have you expunged your conviction, or?
Yes, I just expunged it. I think June or July.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Those are all the questions I have. Thank you very much again.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ehrlich. Ms. Friedman?
Hi, how are you?
Hi. Good. How are you?
Thanks for being here, and congratulations on staying sane for all these months and helping your family in the pandemic. That's not an easy accomplishment. But you did mention one thing that I'm curious about. You mentioned sports. Were you before the pandemic engaged in group sports or individual sports, or what were you doing?
So every morning, and this was my biggest thing, not every morning, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I just played basketball with a group of friends. And that was so great. And I'm missing that, and also gaining a lot of weight also, because, but there's been a lot of things that have been changed. So sports and swimming have been huge, and I no longer do that anymore. So I'm trying to find alternative ways. It's really tough, especially with the fire, the smoke, the air quality. So it was a lot of basketball that I played, and swimming.
Well, I understand, because a lot of people have had a lot of trouble with having things like that taken away from their lives. And that's a hard thing to deal with. So I'm just wondering, did you do walks with your family, or what did you do to make up that lack of physical exercise?
Good. So walks, they're very not interesting to me, but we do walks. Basketball, so I play with my sons, and the courts that we can find that have hoops, because they've really taken down a lot of the hoops now. We go search them out. A lot of the schools still have them. Walks, riding bikes. So those are the three things. And I don't know if bocce ball counts, but bocce ball is one.
So you found enough things to try and take that over.
Something that's competitive, because I love being competitive, and I think that's huge for me.
And it sounds like you would continue with your therapy with Mr. Chu no matter what.
I will, yes.
So if you don't stay on probation, you will still go see Mr. Chu for however long it's required.
And you know what? like I said, I have this evaluation period because even sometimes with Mr. Chu, we come up, there's, you know, I mean, we've worked on so much, I mean, from the beginning to now, that there's been, it's been a little bit stagnant now, right? And so I mean, we're still working on things. I'm not saying we're not, but in the beginning, we were working through a lot of things. But I just feel like, yes, I will continue with him. And like I said, I'm going to reevaluate it at 6 months, see if I need it. Maybe I can reduce after 6 months too, seeing him. So there is a plan for that too.
Okay, thanks very much. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Friedman. Mr. Jones, any questions?
All right. No, thank you for coming, Mr. Gutierrez. I really I appreciate your story.
Thank you.
Mr. Sobek?
Yes, I have a few questions. Hello, Mr. Gutierrez.
Hey, how are you?
I just want to say I absolutely admire your fighting spirit. I cannot imagine going through that testing process as many times as you did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, yeah, I'm surprised I didn't give up either.
So I did want to ask you a couple of questions. Earlier on, when you were describing your history of drinking, you had described yourself as a binge drinker. What do you actually mean by that?
Well, binge drinking, just drinking a whole lot in a short period of time. And more like, you know, and when I did that, you know, I've had obviously years, right, of drinking, but in 2015, it's when it became bad. But just more emotional drinking, like I don't care, I want to binge because I don't want to feel this way. And I feel like that's where I went wrong.
Okay.
So that's what I feel is binge drinking to me.
Okay. So I'm hearing you describe where there was what you might call lots of drinking, and then when things got rough, you went into a period of much more extreme binge drinking. Is that what I just heard you describing?
No, not well, within those 3 months, I did a lot of binge drinking. Previous to that, it was a lot of just social drinking, no issue, very responsible. So I guess I misunderstood you. I thought you said, what is my definition of binge drinking? So my definition is drinking a lot within a short period of time.
Okay. In your statement, when you're talking about what have you done to ensure you're safe to practice as a counselor in independent practice, in there you had talked about some of the things you do personally. And you said, quote, "I'm aware when my sobriety is being challenged and immediately self-correct." Can you help me understand what kind of the process is for you to notice when your sobriety is being challenged, and then what those steps of self-correction look like?
Yeah, so my routine's off. I feel like if I'm not caring for myself, that's huge for me. So if I'm overworking, feeling overwhelmed, not exercising, not eating right, those are all really signs of me getting into this thing or place of, you know, wanting to drink, and then cravings start creeping in. So it's usually like a process, right? So it's I'm, you know, not taking care of myself, not taking care of my emotions, my health. So and then getting cravings. And so then I feel like I need to kind of reach out to my sponsor. I need to get back on my plan that's been working. And I feel like the plan that I have now is working, and it's been working. So
Okay.
that's my process.
Okay. I want to try and connect this to what I was talking about previously with binge drinking. Because one of the challenges we know about binge drinking is often driven by unreasonable responses to emotional crisis. And so when you say, I know when I'm off my game, that is one way of maintaining sobriety. But every one of us in our life is going to be experiencing crisis, whether it's our own, whether it's something we experience with our clients, whether it's in the world or our family or our community. So what can you describe as the steps that you will take or have awareness when it is this much higher level of stimulus that we're talking about?
So, okay, yeah, I understand. So like crisis right now, so it's like level of crisis, right? So for me, yeah, I have my bad days and that's with everything. But, you know, there's times where I need additional help. So this is where I seek additional therapy. I think there's different levels to rise. One that I can maintain on my own, right? The small crisis, but then there's bigger ones where I feel like I just need more help. And more help is I need an extra therapy session. I need, you know, extra time with my sponsor. I need to go to another meeting. So those are times where I feel like, and it's just kind of like looking at my craving. If I'm craving a little bit more than I should, and usually I don't have those cravings, then something's happening. Something inside of me is happening that I need to reach out for greater help than what I can do on my own. So.
Thank you. One final question. You've talked a little bit about that people who are part of your recovery system and your work process are aware of your journey. Some of those because it is a requirement of your probation. How open are you with the rest of your social and community world about the journey you're on?
I'm open, and I feel like I have to be open. There's a part of me that feels like I am where I'm at because I've been open. I've been honest with who I am and what I do. And I know I talked about being a manager in the example, and you know, I guess I can use that as a tool also, right? To say, hey, you know what, I struggled in this department, and now because of my struggles and challenges, I'm stronger. So I think I can bring that, but I mean, I don't shy away from talking about my story. And I feel like I need to share my story, and I have. So I feel like it's important to share my story to everybody.
Okay. Thank you so much. I have no further questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sovek. Ms. Strack, any questions?
I do not have any questions. I just want to thank you for being here and for sharing your story with us. And it's clear you've made a lot of progress, and just want to congratulate you on that.
Appreciate it.
All right, and Ms. Wong.
Hi, thank you so much for sharing your, very moving and very, true story, about your struggles and your recovery, the life circumstances that's really leading to, the you today. So I want to thank you for just being here and, just show us who you are. I do want to follow up on Mr. Sovek's question. I want to think a little bit deeper. So, since you describe yourself as an emotional drinker, and as a male particularly, we kind of hit the wall, male, for that, that biological tendency, it's very, easy to go from, I have a feeling, I don't want to feel it. And that becomes the drinking will kick in. And so, when I look at, your therapist recommendation, really also is very in line with Mr. Sovek's question. It's like, how do you know, that you really need to, ramp up your program, which to me, it's really about like, how do you know that you're hitting that emotional wall again? Because now you have a program in place. It's really about that, the mechanism and how do you increase your awareness that there is the need that you might need to seek more help.
and I think that's the question of like, when we go back to my therapist, it's when I start drifting, right? I used to be a 0 to 10. If it would be like, I'm really sad, let's go drink. But now it's, I'm sad, how sad am I? And putting that in place, right? I love to, so I'm really concrete, right? So I love to put numbers on where I'm at. So I'm a 5 for sad, right? But when I get to a 7 or 8, that's what I was trying to explain, is that I'm able to pull in more resources. I'm even more sad than I was before. So the old Isaac would say, hey, I'm sad, let's get a drink. Now I'm saying, I'm sad, where am I at on the scale? And if I can check myself with my wife first, my wife is my first line of defense, right? You say, hey, how am I doing? I feel I'm not normal right now. How do you feel I'm doing? She kind of lets me know. My sponsor is a second line. My therapist is always there, but I feel like I use him more for a, hey, let's put you in check. This is what's happening with you. I've seen you in the past, what's happened before. Now, hey, let's brainstorm some ideas on how to get better. So I just feel like there's, I just measure where I'm at and try to deal with that.
That's very cool, because what you're describing is a very wonderful result of how the cognitive behavior therapy, right? You stop and think and and then examine your action. So wonderful. That is a really wonderful tool, and I feel very satisfied that you have really utilized and prioritized your support system so that they can actually be your voice of reason. So that's wonderful. Now, the second question that I want to follow up, it's really about, in your testimony, you talked about in therapy that, you and your therapist address a lot of your, what is the word that you use? The blind spots. So can you tell us a little bit more about, what were your blind spots and how you cope with them now?
So I think one of my major blind spots is not seeking help. So as a therapist, even as a therapist, when I had a challenging case, I would just take it and not ask for help, which is very detrimental. So now I seek out a lot of the help, especially with, cases that I'm kind of unfamiliar with. I think that's been a huge part of my blind spots there. But not only that, but I guess that kind of trickles into the individualized treatment too, right? Individualizing every client that comes in, and how do they respond to certain programs, right? AA is not good for everybody, right? And I don't know if you see, but I did a lot of smart recovery too in the beginning, because smart recovery is more of a cognitive approach, right? And it was the journey that I was on, right? I didn't know if I was an alcoholic yet. So I didn't feel comfortable with saying I'm an alcoholic. So I went to smart recovery just to figure things out. And it was more of a, we'll meet you where you're at kind of thing. So it helped me in the process. So just knowing that there's a journey with everybody in individualizing treatment.
So, so the pride or whatever the reason, that, you're not willing to seek help. So that is definitely a very blind spot, trying to do things my own, right? And so, so I really like what you said, and I'm hoping that, you are able to, really, listen to your heart and not really take that, getting help, is something humiliating. And in reality, it's like asking help, is such a such an important thing, for the people around you who want to support you. And I always, I always think that, when you can rely and support on other people, the community around you becomes stronger and you become, a healthier person. So thank you very much. I have no further question, Your Honor.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Wong. Any additional follow-up questions from any board members? All right, seeing none. Ms. Heim, any additional questions?
I do have one, actually. Mr. Gutierrez, you were talking with Ms. Wong about you get a number to your level of stress or anxiety or your desire to drink. And I'm wondering, I think she was trying to suss this out, and I'd like to just hear it from you. Do you think there's a number that if you reached it, you ever would actually take that step to drink again?
I don't think so. There's no, it's because the whole number scale is for me not to reach that point. It's to put myself in check, right? Before I get higher and higher. It's kind of like an anger scale. I'm not going to hit somebody, you know, I might have a problem with hitting, but I'm not going to get there because I already have, I'm a little bit more mindful what my body does and how I'm feeling. So I know where my craving level is at. I know, and then once that happens, if I can, this is where my plan comes in and it works for me, right? I don't know if it works for anybody else, but it's just when I wake up in the morning, how am I feeling? If I'm not feeling good at all, that tells me I need to do something for myself. So whether it's, you know, sports or, you know, go to a meeting, something. So the plan is never to get that far because I have safety spots before I get there.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I have nothing further, Judge.
All right, thank you. Let me ask once more then whether any other board members have any additional questions. All right, still seeing none. Mr. Gutierrez, anything else you'd like to add at this point?
No, thank you.
All right, that concludes your testimony then. Do you have any additional witnesses you'd like to call?
No, I do not.
Any additional documents to submit?
No.
All right. Ms. Heim, would you like to make any closing remarks?
No, thank you.
All right, Mr. Gutierrez, would you like to make a closing remark?
No, thank you.
All right, in a moment then I'm going to ask whether the matter is submitted. And by that, I mean, are you satisfied you've had a full opportunity to present all evidence and make all argument on your behalf? Ms. Heim, is the matter submitted?
Yes, submitted.
And Mr. Gutierrez, is the matter submitted?
Yes.
All right, then this matter is submitted. The case is closed and we are off the record.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Your Honor. I believe this is the time to take a lunch break, if everybody agrees with that. And we are at 12:15. Usually we take about 30 minutes, so we can convey at 12:45. And I'll see you there. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. Ms. Mendoza, may I just get the closing information?